striking several cars when it collided with an oncoming matatu, according to Okoh Sub-County Police Commander Stephen Kimunya, who confirmed the accident. The injured was treated at Burnt Forest Hospital before being transferred to the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Eldoret for further treatment. And the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital has successfully conducted a rare surgery of re-implanting a traumatically amputated hand. According to a statement Sunday, the hospital said that the patient, identified as BK, had his left arm amputated at the wrist following an alleged domestic assault. He was then referred from Sigowet Sub-County Hospital in Kericho and arrived at MTRH Emergency Department, and the detached limb was stored in a cool box before the surgery. Niger's detained president was seen by his doctor Saturday. His entourage said amid mounting concern of his condition, while Nigerian leaders met the officers who seized power last month to try to defuse the crisis. The Muslim leaders visited the capital Niamey with the blessing of Nigerian President Bola Tinubu ahead of the West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It wants start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in Kiswahili.
Below ninta yeninter ayu markati kadikta. You know this character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. Good. And he must blame it on Adam, not me. Because Adam messed up and he was told, "Now you fellow, you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat."
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
3, 2.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Heri Latifa, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
Sasa baridi ni degree ngapi hapa?
Hata sijui, lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
He's the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ, when he slapped those guys and walikuwa na uza mboga ndani ya kanisa, took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's
Good morning and welcome to Monday. All right, what does it have in store? A little bit of traffic starting to build up in different parts of the city today. We're going to see some of that on Hulu Highway, and it started early as you're going out into the CBD, right around the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, going into town. Coming out of Westlands, also we see a little bit of movement here and there, but probably the most of it that we'll see right about now is on Jogo Road, heading towards Landis and then out towards the city centre this morning. All right, on the Thika Superhighway, not much. Slim pickings this Monday morning. We'll wait and see what has in store, but it looks like Monday is starting out slow but good. Let's see how it pans out. Talk to us this morning on Spice FM KE on Twitter and keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The only way to start your day. Good morning and welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. I was trying to, get things to behave the way they should be behaving. Am I talking to myself?
Well, no, you're talking with... I am here listening to you. I'm talking to oneself is actually a healthy practice.
Sorry, I was trying to get things sorted out. It's 10 minutes after 6 o'clock. It's Monday. It's the 14th of August, smack dab in the middle of the month, and here we are. And CT is here. Good morning, CT.
Morning, Do.
How are you?
Fine.
I'm very happy to see you.
Thank you very much.
You're happy to be seen?
I think so.
I don't understand. How can I come with such excitement and then you just rain on my parade like
All right, why don't we start again?
Let's start again. Good morning, CT.
Morning, Do. How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Very nice to see you, Do.
Indeed.
Keeping well?
Yes, I am.
That is lovely. Nairobi is as cold as when I left it.
When you left it, it was just as cold. Maybe just a tad colder. CT, it did the business last week, I'm telling you. It was frosty.
Good thing I wasn't here.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
We were told that you went to buy new batteries. Initially, it was that you were charging the batteries, but then you went to buy them. So you bought big ones. Was it the little AA ones, the medium-sized ones, or like the big one that you carry and put in the trunk of your car?
The person who told you had gone to buy batteries should answer that question.
Now, the person who told you you've gone to buy batteries also now, this week, has gone away.
Well, let's just leave it as has gone away. The battery issue. But a little break every once in a while is useful.
Indeed.
Yes, gives you an opportunity to get a new perspective. And just move away from the day-to-day activities that one is involved in.
Indeed. The 5th Devolution Conference, I think it's the 5th one, it takes place in Wasingishu County this week, and Eric Latiff is away doing that this week, and Amezema Tuwasalimie.
Thank you.
But here we are. Welcome to this week's conversation. It's Monday and here we are. A number of things lined up today, and as we get into it, let's just let you know what that will be. So it's Ndu and CT here with you this morning, and as we get into those conversations, just to let you know what this will be about. Okay, voila. At 7 o'clock, we're going to be looking at the state of Kenya's refugees, and the MP for Turkana West constituency, Daniel Nanok, will be with us at 7. We'll be looking at that. Quite a number of things have happened in the last couple of months. Turkana, as we know, houses Kakuma refugee camp, and that's where it's domiciled. So we'll have conversations about that and where that is all going. At 8 o'clock, His Excellency Dr. Wilbur Otichilo, who is the governor of Vihiga County, will be with us, and we'll be talking about the IDPs. That's the County Integrated Development Plans and Devolution. As that Devolution conference kicks off this week, looking at some of the things that will be discussed, one of the big ones is the plan. What are you going to do for the next 5 years? Essentially, that's what the CIDP is meant to do. It's meant to plan and work out activities for implementation for your budget and what you're going to do development-wise. So let them come and tell us what those plans are about.
So I assume that after all this has been done and 5 years have lapsed, there's a period when they tell us what it is they achieved.
Yes, well,
from the CIDP and the things that they had planned to do.
As they have been doing. Would be nice if periodically over the next 5 years they tell us this is what our plan was at the beginning of this 5-year period. This is where we have reached. These are the bottlenecks that we find. But, we'll have that conversation and see.
I'd prefer if they did it annually, because waiting for 5 years is a long time.
It's very difficult for you to then ask questions after 5 years.
Where do you start? How do you ask?
Yeah.
Because if it's a 5-year plan, it has to be broken down. Well, you start with a year, and then within that year, you have activities.
Voila.
It's easier to look at the progress on a year-by-year basis?
It is. It is. And finally, at 9 o'clock, you may have realized or you may have noticed that if you use a prepaid meter, it starts to beep much earlier than it did before. And when you buy some with a certain number of shillings, perhaps you're getting less units than you did. Right. The cost of electricity is rising, has risen significantly. And this week we'll be having some energy conversations. But today Isaac Ndereba joins us at 9 o'clock and we'll be talking about why the price of your token has risen and what that means going forward. All right. It's a busy morning right here on Kenya's biggest conversation, and we're here on the ride with you. Join us in that conversation. We see all of you clicking in online this morning and joining us in that conversation as we get along. Karibuni sana. Let's take a break now and look at weather. Come back and say hello to all of you that we see you joining online, and we'll say hello and kick things off. Good morning.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. And hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
.14 degrees and cloudy conditions in Nairobi, highs of 25 and lows of 14. It's 12 degrees and clear in Nakuru, highs of 27 and lows of 12, and we'll see lows of 14 in a cloudy Nyeri at 13, going to highs of 23. Looking into Eldoret, it's clear at 11, highs of 25 and lows of 11. And Mombasa, it's raining this morning at 23, highs of 30. And we'll see highs of 29 in a rainy Malindi as well at 23. It's 19 and clear in Kisumu, highs of 31 and lows of 18. And we'll see highs of 30 in a clear Kakamega at 17. Kampala is clear at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 18. And we'll see mostly clear conditions at 21 in Dar es Salaam, going to highs of 30 and lows of 22. It's 13 warming up in Johannesburg, clear conditions, highs of 23 and lows of 12, 25 and mostly clear in Lagos, highs of 29 and lows of 24. And it's 22 and clear in Kinshasa, highs of 30 and lows of 20. It's 30 degrees and Monday afternoon in Beijing, highs of 34 and lows of 24. Light rain in Paris at 15, highs of 29. And we'll see highs of 23 in a rainy London at 17. It's clear Sunday night in New York. Coming into Monday, we'll see highs of 31 and lows of 21.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Indeed, at
mornings
after 6 o'clock. Good morning. If you're just tuning in, our live streams are up on YouTube. Ednah, good morning. Singing songs of joy to you, rainbows and bunnies and all those good things. So yes, tuned in into NCT, joining you this morning, and we see that quite a number of folks are online saying hello to you. Mukokwiri Dan says, wow, for the first time I got Spice FM live. Good morning, catching from London. Good morning to you. Cyrus Kalasinga says, good morning, Spices. If a lion shows you its teeth, I didn't mean it doesn't mean it likes you. Exactly. Cyrus from Eldoret, indeed. Good morning, CT and Ndu, tuned in from Udhiru. Looking forward to hearing from you guys. We are here. Watching from Malindi's Chris Misoy. Aluman Jr. says, there seems to be really nothing good this morning except God and Spice FM. Wow. Okay. Are you all right, man? Isaac Babji says, good morning. Linda Ogola is laughing out loud this morning. Why, Linda? Why? What's funny? The Kikombe says, good morning. He's tuned in from Phuket, reminding us that the H in Phuket is silent. Ask yourself where it is. All right. Sophia Damery says, good morning. Tuned in from Abu Dhabi. Good to see CT again. CT, people missed you last week. Like, missed you.
Mm-hmm. As opposed to what?
As opposed to not missing you. Yes, and here he is. He's back in all his glory. Good morning. Good to see CT. Yes, William Guri says good to see you as well. Good morning, guys. Another beautiful day. At Spice FM, you always give us many informative stories. Yes. Good morning from Mombasa. That's the Dawn. And James is tuned in as well. Says good morning, CT. All right, many more people online this morning. Mzima says good morning, guys. Another beautiful day. Yes, it is. Mokukuri Dan says CT is back rejuvenated. Yes, he bought the big battery. Vesh Mushanga says good morning from Arusha, and Shah says good morning from Kitale. Lundu Kisia says greetings to all Spice family from Tehran in Iran. Nice to have you here. And good morning, Indu and CT. Happy to hear CT's back, tuned in from on the road. Okay, and you're traveling to Kisii. All right. All right. Good morning. Mombasa's tuned in. Robert Mbogo is here. Toti Bishop says good morning. And Mwalimu Habari tumekumiss bwana. Don't just stand up and just be going like that anyhow. But at least you're back, so that's great. And as you are back, have you brought for us a basket of proverbs?
Well, I have. I have been thinking this thing of not being at work is useful for thinking.
What? Are you trying to say you don't think at work?
Well, you do think, but you have other things to think about which are work related.
Voilà.
Or when you're not at work, the thoughts don't have to be work related. And I was looking at West Africa and just the number of coups we've had in a very, very short period of time.
Yeah.
And ask myself the question, what is it? Well, there are the political reasons, economic reasons. But then I thought, maybe I need to look at these proverbs again from West Africa. And maybe these proverbs can point me in the direction and explain to me the heart and the soul of these people of West Africa. So I decided that this week I'm going to go back to the country of Niger.
Niger? Okay.
Yes. And the proverb for the day is, only a medicine man gets rich by sleeping.
By sleeping?
Yes, only a medicine man gets rich by sleeping.
Only a medicine man gets rich by sleeping. Don't people pay them money to do things?
Well, the thing is, medicine men are medicine men awake and asleep.
You've put on the light. I've had the light bulb moment. I've seen it. I've understood. Do you want to say more? Because for me, I've done. I've landed the plane.
For now, I'm going to leave it right there.
The plane has landed. Okay, only a medicine man makes money, gets rich, makes money.
Gets rich.
By sleeping. Voila. Let's take a look at what's going on in the papers this morning. Quite some. On the front page of the Standard, U.S. hand in Ruto-Raila talks. Delaware Senator Chris Coon, who has been involved in Kenya's political situation, met opposition leader Raila Odinga and is set to meet President Ruto today as the United States seeks lasting stability of its regional ally. Let me just ask you a question. Pick a senator from here in Nairobi, anybody, even around the country, who?
Mention them by name, we just think about them.
No, any senator.
Sifuna.
Okay, Edwin Sifuna. Do you think Edwin Sifuna would be able to stand up, climb plane and go to America, Washington, D.C., White House and say, excuse me, the way people are behaving actually is not good. I think that you should do you think that his opinions, he would be welcomed? Would he even be welcomed on the red carpet, that kind of thing?
Why would he be welcome?
Why are you allowing others? People are asking questions. Does it dabble? Does it teeter-totter on the precipice of state sovereignty? Why would you come and be talking to us? Who sent you? In whose best interest is it for you, Mr. Kuhn, to be here talking to Kenya's government and saying it is within our interest that the both of you.
Okay, pause just for
I've paused.
a moment. Delaware, okay?
Delaware is the state where the president is from, we understand.
Precisely.
Thank you.
That president was also senator.
For a while.
Oh, no, for a long while.
Lifetime senator of
For
Delaware.
a very long time.
Yeah.
Okay? So, do I need to join the dots further?
No.
So you ask the question, at whose behest is he here?
Yeah.
But also, I mean, to answer the question a little more, perhaps, with more clarity. If Senator Sifuna got on the plane and went to America, and America needed Kenya to supply them with something that they absolutely needed, and only Kenya had it, they would listen to Sifuna. Because Sifuna would represent that very thing that they need. Unfortunately, the shoe is on the other foot.
Indeed.
Yeah. We are the ones the begging bowl. So since we're the ones the begging bowl, that begging comes with that position where you will be told things you may not particularly want to hear.
Indeed.
Yes.
Let's look at other headlines. Doctors refix a man's hand cut in domestic row. That will be interesting to see. 40 students get Finland visas as education fund scandal rages. Kenyans in Mandera stranded as travel costs rise. Stranded where? In Mandera? Trying to go where?
No, these are people who are non-natives of Mandera, who have lived and worked in Mandera because of the attacks and the threats that seem to be imminent when traveling to and from Mandera. More so something that beset non-locals, as we call it. The government banned such travel. Now, the alternative was to travel by air.
Right.
It was 10,000 shillings. It's gone up to 25,000. So, yes.
My goodness.
Yep. So traveling by air is not an option. Traveling by road is tricky. So that's the story, really.
That's it. We'll look into details of that. State admits not knowing sugar source. School games rekindle hope in neglected sector. That is true. So we saw that this week, quite a number of schools went into their sports days, something that had been on hold for the last 2 to 3 years. Of course, because of COVID, we started to see the reintroduction of extra curricular activities in name of the music drama festivals, as well as now sports days, where children are able to now go to other institutions to compete. All right, this week is the Devolution Conference, 10-year wait to hit revenue targets. At the onset of devolution, counties' financial sustainability was an ideal. But 10 years later, counties still depend on national government to fund their budget, with none meeting own source revenue targets. Now, some are hiking taxes despite tough economic times. All these that we will look into as we go along. The front page of The Nation is reporting business of war. After more than a decade of Kenya Defence Forces involvement in Somalia, a total of 52 billion shillings has been spent on procuring weapons, combat equipment and equipping troops. But has the military intervention achieved its goals? That's the question that is being asked in this story.
The question I would ask is, did that 52 billion actually go to the very things that is being reported it supposedly went to?
Or to the people?
Well, equipment.
Exactly.
People, blah.
Which companies?
Did it actually get there?
Who did it actually go to?
Yep.
C'est la question, non? Kindiki warns Raila on protests. Interior CS Kithure Kindiki has warned Azimiola Umoja leader Raila Odinga against threatening to resume protests if the planned talks at the Bomas of Kenya do not go their way. He urged the opposition to allow dialogue to continue peacefully and accept the outcome. Okay, we're preempting that conversation, aren't we? NSSF Act. New law unlocks 48 billion shillings for the fund. Here, there's a new COVID strain, apparently, and the World Health Organization has classified a new coronavirus strain as a variant of interest, but reiterated that it poses an insignificant risk to public health. Now, listen to this story. In light of the conversation that we just had, a delegation of Kenyan senators is set to travel to Washington, D.C. next month to meet their counterparts in the U.S. Congress in a push for compensation for the victims of the 1998 bomb blast in Nairobi. Do with that information what you'd like. On the back page of The Nation, Sweden seek to inflict semi-final pain on Spain, and England face co-hosts Australia. Those matches take place from today. High stakes for relay teams in Budapest. We know that the World Athletics Championships taking place this month in Budapest in a few days, actually, from the 19th, and it'll be interesting to see how that opens up. Let me take a look quickly at the Business Daily before you go to the Star CT. Tanzania trade war cuts imports by 30%, and KRA goes after another betting firm over 5 billion shilling tax bill. On the back page of the Business Daily, key levers that can lift Africa out of debt hole and help generate jobs. So there are things that can be done. Let's look at the details of that story as we go along. CT, over to you. What's you got?
Well, top right-hand corner, until green, same story as the one you'd read about the doctors at Moi Hospital, that's in Eldoret. They're making history by attaching chopped off hand. It is history. Specialized surgery. It means we have the human resource. Now it's to ensure that they have the wherewithal to make them able to do what they can within the capacities that they have. Right, dialogue. Ruto Raila meet U.S. Senator. Same story as the one you had.
Yeah.
But this, they subtitled Stubborn. Both sides are yet to agree on agenda, even as Azimio mulls return of demos. Right. We will see that, won't we?
Yes, we will. It's 6:30 on the nose. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Let's take a break and see what's happening on the roads with traffic. And we come back and look at the details of the stories making headlines this Monday.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanya.
Amen. Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It gets over
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes.
what the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom? I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to. She's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, 6:30, and we're looking at traffic building up on the Thika Superhighway coming into the city. There's some of it right around Pangani at the underpass, and it'll take you through towards Muranga Road in one direction and Wangari Maathai on the other. But it's still not looking too bad. You can get through without too much of an issue. It's free on Kiambu Road, at least for now. Let's see what happens as Monday morning progresses. Are we looking at Jogo Road, just traffic coming towards Landis and then out towards Kamkunji at the roundabout? And Gong Road is just starting to pick up as you get through towards Haile Selassie. Uhuru Highway doesn't look too bad. Mombasa Road is giving through towards Nyayo Stadium at the roundabout. And then you can go out towards Lusaka, and then you're going towards Langata Road. Coming in from Langata Road doesn't look bad either. And Mombasa Road as you go towards Cabanas and then on to the Eastern Bypass, touching on that outer ring junction. We'll have a little bit of movement there. All right, probably get into it thick right around 7 or going towards 7:30, and that's when traffic hour will start proper this Monday morning. Kids are on holidays, so that means that you have less traffic on the roads, but all something to contend with. Spice of MKE on Twitter. Let's talk there as we try to keep things moving this morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Mornings. Before we continue looking at what's going on in the paper, City Tunaenda Nakuru. Did you know? Tunaenda Nakuru.
We are.
Yes, we're going to Nakuru.
Is this for Choma and Ngoma?
Choma na Ngoma City. Choma na Ngoma, Nyama na Mziki. Choma na Ngoma is all about food, music, and partying. It was established in 2018 and it's a Standard Group premier music concert under our sister station Radio Maisha that brings together music and food lovers for a night of fun and entertainment. So 3 previous editions have taken place in Nairobi, and they've brought major African artists such as Pato Ranking, Yemi Alade, as well as major local artists like Nyashinsky, Calligraph, Sanaipe Tande, and others. This year's Choma na Ngoma is the 4th edition, and it's happening out of Nairobi for the first time. It's the 26th of August at the Rift Valley Sports Club in Nakuru. Again, Calligraph will be there, Otile Brown will be there, Nviri will be there, Ben Sol, Nadia Mukami, Saru, and more. Actually, Father More. Tickets are available on ticketsasa.com for 800 shillings. And you stand a chance to win a pair of tickets by sending the word Choma to 24338. Choma na Ngoma, Radio Maisha. All right, getting into the headlines this morning, let's take a look at what's happening with Devolution. Devolution conference takes place this week in Uasin Gishu County. And one of the problems that's sticking out clearly is that 10 years later, counties are yet to hit their revenue targets. Now, when we talk about revenue targets, we're talking about the money that counties have been able to raise in order to make things happen at the devolved units. At the onset of devolution, counties' financial sustainability was an ideal, but 10 years later, counties still depend on national government to fund their budget, with none meeting own source revenue targets. Now, some are hiking taxes despite tough economic times. Let's look at money matters. 33.85 billion shillings is the money generated by counties collectively in 2014-2015. 50 billion shillings is the amount that they targeted to raise in 2015-2016, but they only get to 35 billion. 40.3 billion is the amount they collected in 2018-2019. In the 2019-2020 financial year, county governments generated 35.7 billion, which represents 65.2% of the annual budget of 54.9 billion. 64.2% in 2021-2022 is the collections that it decreased by to 34.44 billion. That was 64.2% of the annual target of 53.66 billion shillings. This was a decrease compared to 35.7 billion generated in the financial year 2019-2020. Now, 28.77 billion shillings is the amount that the Controller of Budget shows in the 9 months of 2022 to 2023 that counties raised from their own source revenue, which was a decline compared to 27.09 billion generated in a similar period in the previous financial year. So, will this be amongst the top headliners that county governments get together to discuss this week? We know that the CIDP is one big one. At the beginning of the 5-year term, they come together and they're going to have questions, or rather look for solutions in terms of what should happen. Are they struggling, and why are they struggling? Looking at the answers to those questions. An analysis of revenue collection in the counties has revealed that they have not met their targets over years. The underperformance implies that some planned activities may not be implemented in the financial year due to lack of funds, and may therefore lead to the accumulation of pending bills. Counties mostly rely on the national government for funding. In April this year, Commission on Revenue Allocation Vice Chairperson Koitamet Olekina said none of the 47 counties had been able to meet its revenue targets since the advent of devolution. CRA challenged counties to improve and fully automate their revenue collection systems to meet targets and reduce loss of cash. Koitamet noted that according to a revenue potential survey that they had conducted, no county government had achieved its revenue targets. Yes, we've seen this. So the Council of Governors will hold it's the 8th, not the 5th, the 8th Devolution Conference from August 15th, which is tomorrow, to August 19th in Eldoret in Uasin Gishu County. The theme of the conference is 10 years of devolution, the present and the future. The sub-theme is driving transformation from the local level, county governments as the center of economic development. The conference seeks to reflect on the last 10 years of devolution and explore locally and internationally recognized revolutionise methodologies for strengthening systems to enhance transformation service delivery in the counties. It will be interesting to see what they come up with this week. But one thing that I do feel is absolutely important is a yearly audit of this. You come together. I mean, the countries at a standstill because everybody's going to Eldoret this morning, right? And then they're going to be there for the next 4 days, and they're going to have a conversation, a series of conversations about the things that they are planning for their counties. One of the big ticket items is own source revenue. Over the last 10 years, no county has ever met their target. Collectively, individually, it has never happened.
One would need to ask, what exactly are the parameters that one uses when one is setting these targets? Because I'm certain that Commission on Revenue Allocation have a matrix, that's what they're called, or they have matrices working these things out. But if they're not meeting the targets, I'm sure reasons are given as to why. COVID is no longer the excuse.
It can't be.
Okay, so are we going to say it's the war in Ukraine? Are we going to say it is the drought? What are we going to say this time around?
I don't know, man. It's just the solution seems to be then for most counties is to raise revenue via the increase of taxes. It seems to be always the low-hanging fruit that you will say, okay, well, we can raise taxes a little bit.
That is the excuse they use. But then, in many cases, it's just that the revenue collection system that they have are inefficient. That is the politest way you can actually put this. If you look around and look at counties who recently had new governors, you will notice that there are some. A case in point is Mombasa, where revenue collection has shot up. They haven't done any hop, step, and jump with raising revenue. No. But has shot up. It means they are collecting more efficiently, which also means the previous government was not collecting as efficiently. Okay. Now, when revenue isn't collected efficiently, the story that you're being told is not a question of revenue collection, but where it is misappropriated, not appropriated. Okay.
We do know that the complete digitization, complete automation of county accounting systems has not occurred across board.
No, it hasn't.
And that's going to be one problem. It's going to be a big problem.
That process is actually fought. It's actually fought, but it's not just even in county governments. It's been something, automation is something that has been resisted even in private institutions, even in government parastatals, because it does the one thing that they do not want to see done. It limits the opportunities that people have for fiddling with the funds. Now that is not a system that people will want to see work.
No. It is not. All right, tell us a story, City.
Let me tell you a story, and a happy story, yo. If one exists. Something that made the headlines recently. You know, I was looking at an article that was written by a certain gentleman with the name of Gabriel Kagombe. He was in the studio some times back.
Yep.
And the title was Kenya Does Not Need External Mediators. Why do you laugh?
Because I started out anyway. I have thoughts about this, but your story.
You see, I've read the entire article, and a lot of what he says has to do with Raila Odinga and Raila Odinga's great love, according to him, for external people who are called in when we haven't exhausted internal mechanisms. The reason why this article has caught my attention is precisely this. The issue of mediation is not just a question of people have disagreed or local leaders have disagreed. No. This whole discussion revolves around what you call global politics, not Kenyan politics. There is a geopolitical conversation that you cannot run away from. And it's not just a matter that has to do with Kenya or third world countries. It's the world over. There are many things that even this US of A cannot do without due consideration of what China may think, or China's position on this matter, or Russia's position on this matter. That's geopolitics for you. Everyone influences everyone in one way or the other. Now, if you happen to be the brother who needs more help, then your personal say in the matter is somewhat limited. You can say what you wish to say, but by and large, you're going to be told what to do.
So if you are in how can I say this? You are in a delicate position, and then when it comes to any kind of mediation, if you find yourself being the one essentially with your hand out, you have little say in
limited.
You have limited say in then how the mediation will go.
Well, look at it this way. You see, from a geopolitical perspective, when you have an internal disagreement, you are tipping the apple cart. You are disturbing a certain process that other people who are involved in that same game are in. You are upsetting it. You're interfering with that plan. Because disagreements, by and large, do precisely that. Yes.
That's true.
And when it's on this continent, and you have not long... we have a neighbor called Sudan, okay? Khartoum, Sudan.
Khartoum, Sudan, yes. It is Sudan.
It is Sudan.
Yes.
But even southern Sudan, those countries are not at peace, really. There's still turmoil.
It's been a while.
Yes. And Sudan, Khartoum has been going at it fully. Them, they've been at it hammer and tongs. You look at our neighbor Ethiopia, not peace, yes. Relative peace, yes. But still simmering. So you're talking about an area where there's always a whisper of instability somewhere in the air.
Some kind of conflict.
You cannot allow, if you are looking at the geopolitics of the country and the political influence that so-called developed countries like to wield, they are not going to allow something that could be stopped right at the very, very beginning to escalate into something then now becomes a real big issue, because that's what it does. These disagreements don't start as fights. There are slight disagreements.
So what you're saying, CT, is that people who come in as third parties, like the US now, for example, where Senator Coons comes to Kenya every now and then to just make sure things are all right. They are not doing it because they want you to be very happy amongst yourselves. No, they're doing it because they have an interested stake in what happens in Kenya.
They haven't.
So for you to be at peace is essentially for their issues to be attended to.
America has its own problems. I mean, why? So it's not as though they don't have problems. It's not as though Delaware, where Coons come from, they don't have problems. They do. So why would Coons leave his country to come here?
With all the wahala, instead of sorting it out, come and,
Why would he come here if there's nothing that his country is benefiting from? And given the frequency with which he has come here, the benefit must be enormous.
Of course.
Do you see Coons going to Somalia? Do you see Coons going to Uganda? Do you see him going to Tanzania?
No.
Do you see him going to Rwanda? It's a simple enough question, is it?
It is.
All I'm saying is, you cannot look at Kenya. That story of looking at Kenya as just this country, which is in East Africa, that story went with the wind. You have to be alive and alert to the geopolitics, not just of the region, but of the globe. You have to be. And you have to ask the question of the role that Kenya plays in that geopolitics.
Absolutely. You have to always look at this. This is a bigger picture here.
It is.
And you have to look at that bigger picture.
Yes. It's no longer, two leaders in Kenya having a disagreement. Yes, there are. But there's a much bigger story to it.
There is.
Yes.
The business of war is also one that is very closely related to that. It's been reported on the front page of the Daily Nation today. After more than a decade of Kenya Defence Forces involvement in Somalia, a total of 52 billion shillings has been spent on procuring weapons, combat equipment, and equipping troops. But has the military intervention achieved its goals? Let's look at some numbers here. 4,660 is the Kenya formally deployed. Formally now being formally as in formal. They've deployed these troops to Somalia in October 2011 following incessant attacks and abductions of civilians by Al-Shabaab militants on its territory. 1,000 is the Kenya recently deployed nearly 1,000 troops for the mineral-rich Democratic Republic of Congo at a cost of 4.4 billion shillings in the first 6 months. Since KDF incursion into Somalia, Kenya has suffered 3 major attacks at Westgate Mall in 2013, Garissa University in 2015, and Dusit in 2019, leaving hundreds dead. And so you ask yourself the question, where did all this money go? EU grant to KDF for Al-Shabaab fight was in the billions of shillings. In 2012, it was 5.83. In 2013, 4.7. 2014, 3.85. 2015, 4.29. 2016, 6.79. 2017, 4.73. 4.32 is what was given in 2018. 4.64 in 2019. 2020 was 3.6. 2021, 2.54, and so far 2022 6.58. All of that money comes to 51.8 billion shillings, just under 52 billion. The question that is shooting out right now is that with all that has been spent, with all that has happened, with all the lives that have been lost, is the country safe? It's a big question. And this story written by Mary Wamboy says, over time, Al-Shabaab terrorists have expanded their reach, including establishing recruitment networks in Kenya. On the 15th day of the Kenya Defence Forces incursion to Somalia, then Chief of General Staff Julius Karangi declared that the war's success indicators would manifest themselves in the form of a severely degraded Al-Shabaab capacity. Kenya, angered by the continued kidnapping of tourists by Al-Shabaab terrorists along the Kenyan coast, had killed hundreds of the group's militia within a week of the invasion, kicking off one of the country's most expensive missions in terms of lives lost in combat over the past decade. It went on. And the questions now sticking out like a sore thumb is Kenya safer after all this money that has been spent? Is Al-Shabaab in check? Is it in the pocket, really? And unfortunately for a lot of people, the answer is no. That do you feel any safer after all of this has been said and done? It is not to downplay the work that the troops do, because they risk their lives on a daily basis to make sure that Kenya's borders are safe. But has the money spent actually yielded the results that it was targeted for at the beginning of all of this? Have the lives lost, because that's the expense that we speak of when we speak of an expense of war, not just the money, but the lives lost, the lives put on the line, the lives put in jeopardy. Has that yielded what it was meant to yield? And because of that, the questions are, for how long will it continue?
It's always a question that one asks. You see, every war that is fought on this planet, not just within the region, that is the pertinent question that you asked. You first of all ask, what was that war about again? And then you say, okay, because with time, 12 years down the line, you actually forget what it is that we were doing in the first place. Because 12 years is a long time.
It is.
Okay. And even measuring the success, again, over that period of time, when you get in, there's a goal. But is it the same goal 5 years down the line? Is it the same goal 3 years down the line? Is it the same goal 10 years down the line? Is it really? Because if you went in to achieve something, you set yourself a target and you set it within a certain timeline. Now, if that timeline has lapsed, that was the time when that question should have been asked, isn't it?
Yep. That's the question to be asked. What happened? And that should then fuel any continuance of these operations, or looking at a scale down of those operations. The answer to that question should fuel your next action. So, I mean, it will be looked at, that's for sure. What's going to happen in 2023? Who benefits from war? Who benefits from making sure that a conflict is kept just so, a conflict? And those are serious questions.
I mean, the question one is asking is, okay, if it's a conflict, what exactly is this conflict? Because a conflict must have a name. There must be something that we can point to and say, this conflict is arisen because of this. So what is it? Yes, there was the issue of securing our borders. There was the issue of essentially creating a blockade so that Al-Shabaab don't come in. Now, what one may not see and what is often not reported is the number of times attacks have been thwarted. That is rarely reported.
Oh, absolutely.
By the time you hear of one incident, you hear of the Garissa incident, you hear of an incident where people were ambushed. Those are in the public glare. But whatever else was prevented from happening, we do not hear enough of.
And it's deliberate. Yes. We had a conversation here in commemoration of the August 7th memorial. Dr. Kanenje told us very clearly that one of the tactics that is used when you look at terror and conflict and things like this, war, is that you keep it quiet, because one of the tactics of the other side of war, of conflict itself, is that if you make it public, if you make it open, is that you give a lot of strength and you give a lot of oomph.
Yes, you're giving them publicity essentially.
Absolutely. So when you keep it quiet, what you do is that you're reducing their power.
Because consider, for instance, if it was reported that 12 attacks had been thwarted, you say 12.
What?
Goodness.
Where were we?
Yeah. Precisely.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's something that has been understood. So you simply don't give it ammunition, right? But what is certain is that the question that ought to be asked is, if our armed forces hadn't gone in Somalia, what situation would we have now?
And that's the thing, that you don't know how bad it would have been. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Look at what was happening with tourists being kidnapped left, right and center. Kenyans being kidnapped left, right and center, being drafted in by Al-Shabaab over and over again. So what decision would Kenya have taken if not to go to war? You don't know what would have happened. No. It could have been much worse. In the time, in that moment, seemed like it was the best decision to take. Okay, what else do you have, CT?
Well, what I'm looking at here, there is an opening that I think, let me look at the business daily so that I can talk about it a little more. Right? There's an opening for Kenya and Tanzania to actually sort out very many issues that we in the media seem to claim they have. And yet, what is the headline of the Business Daily seems to point to the complete opposite of what I'm saying.
What?
Kenya-Tanzania trade war cuts imports by 30%. Okay. Again, do we have a trade war really? Is there a trade war? Okay. It says DA imposes new guidelines on trade in grains. Tanzania says measures to help fight exploitation. Now, what exploitation are we talking about? If I look at this article, it says Kenya imports from neighboring Tanzania have slumped at the sharpest pace in 7 years in a period renewed by trade tiffs between Nairobi bypass Dar es Salaam to buy more from as far as Egypt. Now, why must it be a war? Why must the conversation be the beating of drums, the beating of war drums? Are you saying that this matter that is being referred to as a war is something that could not have been discussed and agreed upon amicably?
Sure, it could have been, but isn't that just it though? That because it didn't happen, it's because it was not sat and agreed on amicably. It's then now when you start to hear the rumblings of conflict. Maybe war is a little bit too sensational to call it, but is that not just it? That you start to see the stoppage of the imports of cheaper Tanzanian goods, for example, or you see that we're not going to sign a particular trade agreement because it doesn't benefit you, and that people are trampling all over your sovereignty because of 1, 2, 3. Isn't that what war is made of? In the very beginning, actually, that because we did not sort out something amicably, it then spirals out of control into something else.
At the heart of it, usually, there are individuals who are well placed or highly placed, and so are able to influence decisions, who stand to benefit whenever you hear such a conversation. Because neighbors, for heaven's sake, not only do we share borders, we share communities.
Yes.
We are actually tied to Tanzania at the hips. Yes, there's no running away from that simple reality. Okay? You go to the coast, Kwale, you have Digos in Tanzania, you have them in
Kenya.
You go to Taita Taveta specifically, it's the same thing. Okay? You go to Namanga, same thing. You go to the Migori border, Hispania, same thing. I mean, you can go on and on and on and on and on and on and on about it. Everything that I mentioned is a foundation on which you could say, because we are this closely tied, such issues ought to be sorted out clearly. But the moment it mentions grain, unfortunately, our history with grain, the importation of it, the need to import it, and what goes around it, at best it's murky. There's always someone somewhere who understands and knows where to get cheap maize, and the story will be spun, it'll be brought about to explain why that maize must be imported from that particular place. If we've had situations where our own farmers are decrying and saying, we have maize rotting, we have maize that hasn't been bought. Now, at the same time, you hear cheaper maize has been imported. So you're asking yourself, should we not protect our own farmers first?
Of course, that's a question that should be asked. But then, as you have the should we conversation, CT, people are hungry as you're talking about should we. So can you do something about it? Or this cheaper maize that's coming in from Tanzania, for example, will you now stop people from buying it? No. So as you're saying that we can do something about it, people are hungry today.
You know...
So as you get your ducks in a row, how about we eat? I think that's the question that people then would ask. And so that's how it can be made into a conflict.
You know, if you look at the grains of maize, they don't come with the label, I am from Tanzania.
Thank you very much. Or when it's on your plate, it's not an ugali smiling at you saying Dar es Salaam. I mean, come on.
Made in Dar es Salaam.
Yeah.
No. But here we are.
Yep, those are the questions. It's just tough stuff, and I think these are where the rumblings of these conversations are coming from around the continent. How about we come together and sort out some of these issues and these things that we hear about conflict are absolutely unnecessary.
But
we can be going miles ahead.
If we talk about the issues of the continent, the one thing that our continent has been known for spectacularly is how the leadership ignores its people.
Isn't it just?
Yes, it is.
We're coming around to 7 o'clock. At 7, conversations continue. Kenya's biggest conversation goes into the top of the hour to listen to the news. We'll be back after this.
Spice up your life.
Yoweri Museveni, in his first visit to Uganda as president, he stated that they discussed topics of mutual interest, particularly trade, security and agriculture. President Ruto's visit to Uganda comes just a week after the Ugandan president met former President Uhuru Kenyatta. Meanwhile, President Ruto has said that the government is working towards eliminating a food deficit costing the country a total sum of 500 billion shillings annually in imports.
We are importing food to Kenya, costing us 500 billion shillings every year. 500 billion shillings, good people, is significant. We shouldn't be importing this food. We should be producing. Apart from doing what we must do to feed our nation. And I want to thank our farmers. Farmers are the most patriotic people I have come across. This year, our farmers have grown beyond what they did last year, 200,000 acres of land to produce food. They are doing a phenomenal job and we will support them.
He further said this year's food production is promising because farmers have grown 200 hectares beyond what they did in 2022, driven by the favorable rains and state-funded fertilizer subsidy.
We have some good news about fertilizer and about what's happening in that space. That because of what we have done in that space, our projection this year is that we are going to increase our maize production from 44 million bags to 61 million bags. It's because of the fertilizer Raymond talked about, and it's because of the prayer of the rain that we prayed some time back.
And Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua said the government will press on with reforms in the education sector, saying they are intended to improve standards in the sector. Speaking at the 41st graduation at the University of Eastern Africa, Barton in Nandi County, Gachagua said the reforms recommended by the Presidential Working Party on education reforms will help to re-engineer the sector. The DP said President William Ruto formed the task force to seek inclusive and evidence-based reforms in the education sector in a bid to refocus the retool graduates from job seeking to job creation.
Nimeona sasa wakijaribu kusema ati the changes we have made in the education sector is making education for the rich. It's a lie, blatant lie. All we are saying is we are changing the model so that people once you are given assistance is full. Hakuna haja kusomesha mtoto mpatie bursary form 1, umwachilie form 2, hana then arudi nyumbani umeenda hasara. We have just refocused and changed the strategy of funding university education because there were many challenges.
Azimio leader Raila Odinga's latest change of tact on demonstrations has been well received by Kenya Kwanza leaders. National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula said Raila's new stand is welcomed, further calling for cooperation between local leaders.
Na jana nimefurahi kusikia Raila akisema hatutakuwa na maandamano tena, lazima Wakenya waongee, and that's what we want. We must talk with each other, to each other, not at each other. Kujenga nchi yetu. Kwa hiyo mimi nakuja hapa kuomba tushirikiane.
Wetangula, accompanied by CS Eliud Owalo, Suda South Member of Parliament Karoli Omondi, Homa Bay counterpart Peter Kaluma, and former Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero, Owalo took the opportunity to assure Nyanza residents that the government will serve Kenyans without any discrimination.
And our focus today is not on empty rhetoric, but service delivery to the people. And that is why we are using each and every opportunity available in government to support the people of this region, just the same way the government is supporting other regions, other parts of Kenya. No part of this country will be left behind by way of development under this Kenya Kwanza government led by President William Samoei Ruto. Nyanza inclusive. In this region, we have got a tangible development agenda that is forming the social contract.
And the number of migrants dying in the Mediterranean is an open wound for humanity, says Pope Francis after a week marked by a string of deadly shipwrecks. At his weekly Angelus prayer, the 86-year-old pontiff offered his prayers for the 41 people reported missing by 4 survivors brought to safety on the Italian island of Lampedusa. He recalled with pain and shame UN figures showing more than 2,000 migrants have lost their lives in the Mediterranean Sea since the start of the year. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Arcedo. Good morning.
Traffic on Vibes Radio.
Oh yeah. Spice FM, Nakuru.
All right, a few minutes after 7 o'clock, and we're looking at traffic. It's busy in the city on the Thika Superhighway. It's heavy as you come out towards the Pangani Underpass. Some of that traffic will go out towards Muranga Road. The rest of it will go towards Wangari Maathai, and that's very busy as you then go out towards Chiromo or into the CBD this morning. All right, what else are we looking at? Traffic on Jogoo Road is also pretty heavy right about now. It's coming out towards out towards Landis Road, and then we're seeing some of it then go towards Kamkunji. Lusaka will take on some of that, and it'll come out towards the Likoni interchange. Southern Bypass is looking pretty good as an option to get into the city. It's heavy on Gong Road as you approach the city mortuary roundabout, and some traffic then coming off of Cabanas towards North Airport Road, touching on Outer Ring at the junction towards the Eastern Bypass. All pretty busy in that whole general area and direction this morning. All right, Monday morning is a busy one already. What's happening where you are this morning in your neck of the woods? Talk to us on Spice FM KE on Twitter as we keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
The only way to start
This
your day
is
where
the
you're
Situation
tuned in from
Room.
around
The only way to
country
start
and
your
around
day.
the world. It's 8 minutes after 7 o'clock on this 14th day of August 2023. Kenya's biggest conversation gets into its second hour. Ndu, Okoh and CT Muga with you as we get into another conversation this morning. Welcome to our audiences online as well as on KTN. Karibuni Sana. And we're running into the week. And as we get into the week, let's talk about Kenya's largest single day athletics event. It's back again this year and it's the biggest. It's the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. And imagine that it's been this way for 20 years. It's the 20th edition and folks are coming out and they're saying, come on out and you can run. You can run virtually. You can run physically on the 29th of October. It's 2 months too. 2 months? Yes, it's 2 months too. You can start to train. You can start to get your ducks in a row and get on the road and be able to put your money for 2,000 shillings. You can log on to www.nairobimarathon.com. Register for the race and start running now, start practicing now. And all of the money that everybody then collects, whether you're running virtually, whether you're running physically, goes towards future makers to see some change in the lives of vulnerable children, those living with disability, as well as young girls. It's the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon happening on the 29th of October. Get into it and get into it now. All right. Our guest for this hour is already seated. Mheshimiwa Daniel Nanok. He is the MP for Turkana West and he's with us this morning. Mheshimiwa, good morning.
Good morning, Andu.
How are you doing?
Doing great.
Karibu sana.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. It's good to have you again in the hot seat, coming in and having conversations about things that are important. And as you do that, CT's been away, but he brings back a bag of goodies. And he's come back on the day that you have been to. And we welcome you with today's proverb.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the country of Niger. We had proverbs from the country of Niger a couple of months ago. But as I said, this turmoil that seems to be resident in West Africa has gotten me thinking. And it's given a new perspective to the proverbs that come from that particular region. And so I decided that instead of just going by the pattern that I'd followed before, that I stay in West Africa for the next 2 or 3 weeks, just to look at their proverbs and perhaps discuss the thinking behind some of the proverbs that they have. But remember, the Republic of Niger has one thing that the rest of the world doesn't have. One, it has more uranium deposits than anybody else on the planet. So remember the earlier conversation about the interest people have?
Right.
Right there. One doesn't need to go too far. Right there. That is the interest. And I dare say the rest of this continent also has natural resources that are incomparable to probably every other part of this globe. Now for the proverb. Only a medicine man gets rich by sleeping.
Mheshimiwa, you are not asleep.
I'm not.
And he's not a medicine man.
You're not a medicine man.
I can't get rich.
Okay. So it's the process of elimination here. What do you think about that proverb?
And you know, proverbs are meant to put people to think. There are very few words describing the whole world. So only a medicine man gets rich by sleeping.
Only a medicine man gets rich by sleeping.
By sleeping.
Yes.
medicine men are meant to deal with sickness of people.
Yeah.
Everything.
And,
Everything.
Okay, and let's say sickness is all those and abnormal, situations that people get into,
yes,
whichever way they do. And so, the medicine men don't look for patients. It's patients who look for them. And everybody then who becomes a patient, which is automatic, once in a while you will be, all of us do, get sick. We will go looking for those people. Whether they are quacks, whether they are the real medicine, the trained ones, whichever. Could that be the sleeping bit that they get? I mean, you go to them, and so for the services they will offer you, they will charge you at their place, at their cost, comfort, yes, at their comfort zone, and so I want to believe that is the sleeping aspect. So money gets to them, not that they go out looking for that money.
No?
You know, on a scale of 1 to 10, Mheshimiwa, you have 10, because when we ask for your perspective on the proverb, that is your perspective.
Yeah.
Yes. Someone else would have told us something different. But it's true. You're a medicine man, whether you're awake or asleep, you're a medicine man. Yes. And the perspective that you brought, which I like, people will come looking for you. People queue to see medicine men.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is it.
Yes.
All right. So, Mheshimiwa, as we get into it this morning, looking at the state of refugees in Kenya, and you are a member of parliament for Turkana West, and Turkana West is the constituency that houses, or rather, the largest refugee camp in Kenya, being Kakuma.
Yeah.
And we've seen some movement out of Kakuma in the last couple of months. We've seen some movement in terms of people coming to visit. There have been certain things happening. Grain from Ukraine coming to Turkana. We've seen many things going on here. But still, we have heard over the last couple of years that, wanted to close down the camp. People have known the camp for their whole lives. There have been children who've been born there and have lived their whole life in those camps and have come out of those camps maybe later, some who've not left. Let's get a status update of what is going on for refugees coming out of Kakuma today. What do things look like at the moment?
Thank you, Ndu. Yes, it is true that we host the largest refugee camp as the people of Turkana West constituency. And that has been for quite some time. The first refugees into Kakuma came in 92 from South Sudan, particularly. Since then, others have joined in from Ethiopia. And the second largest, I think, group come from Ethiopia. And then many other small refugee groups or numbers from various countries. I happened to attend the World Refugee Day, which was celebrated on the 19th of July in Kakuma. In attendance that day was the PS, Migration and Citizen Affairs, Professor Bitok, as the chief guest. But also in attendance was the High Commissioner for Refugees, Mr. Filippo Grandi, and the country rep, UNHCR, which is the organization or UN organization that deals with refugees. And it was mentioned then that there are 22 nationalities in Kakuma. There are actually two camps. One is a camp, the other one is a settlement. I'm still grappling with the difference between a settlement and a camp. But yeah, Kalobeye settlement and Kakuma refugee camp. So those two refugee areas, occupying about 40 square kilometers of our land.
40?
40 square kilometers of the land. 15 square kilometers in Kalobeye, and about 25 in Kakuma town. It seems like, okay, there are those who come because of problems, but there are those people who come in and they look okay. I've seen people in that camp who, by all purposes, don't pass. In my understanding, don't pass for refugees, because my understanding of a refugee is someone on the run, someone whose life is under threat, maybe
seeking asylum for one reason or other reason.
One reason or the other, and so there are people who want to come and stay there. After some time, they go out, they come back. So in Kakuma, the camp has been reducing and as well as increasing. There was a time, 09, 010, when we thought that now the camp was going to close because, the settlements were being demolished because the numbers were reducing.
Yeah.
I think that is just about after the independence of South Sudan.
Yes.
But now again, it's swelling up. So it's been increasing and reducing in that manner, in that aspect.
Okay.
So as it is now, there are very many refugees. The last conversation I had with the representative in her office, they are bursting. Now the camps are bursting. They are in need of more area. They need more support. And with the occurrences around the world, around the globe, on issues of wars, insecurity, the challenges of the life that we are facing now, funding is becoming a challenge. Also, I got to hear from the representative. And so there are newer areas. The war in Ukraine definitely is a big one, and it is taking out refugees. The other time we were seeing Myanmar, and all those new areas where refugees are actually running out of their countries. Interest is changing, and funding is also redirected to those new areas.
Right.
So Kakuma is suffering from underfunding in a way, and there's a lot of downsizing and reprogramming of whatever used to be there. And so what is happening in Kakuma is good and bad to the refugees. There are issues of insecurity even in the camp now, amongst themselves, disagreements between these communities that are refugees. They come with baggages from wherever place they have come from, those bad feelings and hatred, and some of those things play out in the camp. These are the situations that I see, but overall, I think the government is managing this situation. There is the Department of Refugee Service,
yes,
under the Ministry of Interior and National Government.
Yeah.
The ones who are overseeing the camp, and I think they are trying. They are providing the necessary administrative cover.
In 2021, under the leadership of then Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, there were talks that Kakuma would be one of those camps that would be closed and closed completely. What would happen to refugees thereafter really then was not Kenya's issue, but they said, look, we've done it for years, we've done it for decades, and the burden then on Kenya was just too much, and let's see that close. That conversation didn't go beyond a conversation, but it seemed that it was a welcome suggestion and connecting in line with what you're saying now. that there are certain things that happen when you do bring in refugees. That yes, they do come in with the baggage of conflict from their original country. They do then come in also with, a burden on the economic status of their host, which is Kenya, and then the question of repatriation and settlement and their upkeep and all of these other things. In some cases, assimilation into the Kenyan, into the country. Those things come into play, and those are some of the reasons as to why Matiang'i at the time then gave this directive. But it was welcomed by many people. Would that still be the same sentiment today? Because we're looking at upwards of 300,000 refugees that the camp can hold and has held for some time between these two camps, settlement and camp. Huge numbers. 22 nationalities that you speak of.
No, it's whether welcome or not, both ways. It's not Fred Matiang'i. It's not the minister who actually talked of the closure of the camp. It's actually the former president who declared that in a year's time the camps should close. And I want to believe there were good reasons for that pronouncement by the president, and you've mentioned some of them. Actually, hosting refugees is not an easy thing, because this is a population that is extra to the country. It's even more challenging and difficult. Sometimes I ask myself, how comes or what happens that the marginalized areas of this country are the ones that are made, or the one that Kenya has chosen to host the refugees?
Because they border other countries. And
that aspect of bordering.
Yes.
Is it because of our non-productivity nature? Is it because we are the fringes of, even the refugee situation in itself, it's a difficult situation. So there are refugees in Turkana, and there are refugees in northeastern Dadaab, and those Wajir constituencies and sub-counties. When the president announced that there will be closure of the camps, the refugee camps, for whatever reasons, I was called by my constituents.
Yes.
And they asked me to tell the president that they are okay with the refugees. Yeah. That he should not close the camps. Why? Because in the thinking and the take of my constituents, and a good number of, people even in Turkana, there are benefits that come with the hosting of the refugees. And yes, it is true.
What are these benefits, Mheshimiwa?
Side benefits, development, particularly employment, opportunities, business opportunities arise because of that population. The population, the 300,000 that you mentioned, need services. They need goods and services. And those goods and services are provided by this country and the residents and the people around. The jobs, that come with the presence of the refugees in the country are jobs that can be accessed by the population that hosts them. There is a lot of interaction of the refugees and the host community. In fact, that interaction has led to kind of a creation of a new community, marriages between refugees and the host community.
Right.
So
essentially you're talking about integration.
If that is what integration would be, Muga, it is happening in around these camps. And so because of those benefits, there are those who say, no, don't close the camps.
Right.
But I want to believe that the government had a reason, and a good reason, at the closure of the camps, because there are many other side effects of those camps. In my constituency, one of the greatest damages that the presence of the refugees has caused is the environmental degradation. Cutting down of the little vegetation cover, the shrubs and the trees.
To build the camp?
In order to build, in order to cook, use of those natural resources. The water in River Taraj, which would have been water for use by the community, is actually being used more by the refugees. I mean, if you were to visit Kakuma camp and see the number of water tanks erected to provide water to the camps, there are 10 times the number of tanks you will see serving the host community. Those differences, very glaring. Okay. In terms of education, it brings a sense of better performance or better access of education educational opportunities, of business opportunities. Even the refugees do business, and they do quite a lot of business.
Yeah.
Some of the richest people in my constituency are those refugees.
And they're counted as members of your constituency, are they not?
No, they are not.
No, they're not.
They are a separate constituency completely. Of course, they don't partake of the political processes.
Or the services.
The services, they are provided those services by UNHCR and government.
Yes.
And so they are treated as another.
They're treated as guests.
We would say that. But those other interactions, social interactions, economic interactions between the host and the refugees, that is a daily occurrence, which has actually helped the constituency. And Kakuma town at that. Kakuma town has actually grown because of the presence of the refugees. It is like when Operation Lifeline Sudan used to be in Lokichogyo. And Lokichogyo was then the booming town in Turkana County, and even the country at that time in the 90s. The place to go in Turkana was Lokichogyo.
Yes.
Now the place to go in Turkana is Kakuma, and of course Lodwar as the seat of Turkana County government and devolution.
There's a thing of honor about hosting those who may have been in a difficult situation around the world. That those countries who have then had a policy to then accept those who seek asylum or those who are leaving their countries because of conflict, because of war. There are treaties that have been signed by nations to be then accepting of these individuals or these communities or these societies who leave en masse because of conflicts like this.
Yeah.
Should Kenya still see it as a thing of honor? Should Kenya still see it as an agreement that had been made by signing of particular treaties and protocols to continue with this, regardless of the sentiment that may come from the ground?
Kenya is a respected country in the League of Nations, in the globe, in the world. And what Kenya does is, of course, we can't run away from the rest of the world. And by us signing those treaties, we are actually confirming of our place in the League of Nations, in the world, that we will want to be part of what happens in our globe. And so those treaties are actually the ones that have helped Kenya do what they are doing with the refugees, for example, and many other things. We know that the UNEP headquarters is in Kenya. So Kenya is a respected country in the UN, in the world. As to whether they should continue, I think it's not about. It's not a matter of whether, because the reason why Kenya signed into those treaties was to be part of the solution to the world problems. And this refugee problem is very current. It is actually growing in the world. And so if we were to say we sign out of these treaties, what message shall we be sending to the world?
Absolutely.
And so signing the treaty is okay for Kenya as part of the world, as part of, as one of the countries of the world, as a country that respects human rights and wanting people to live well and live in peace. The challenges that come with that, of course, it's about mitigating them. It's about working to solve those challenges between Kenya and the UN and those organizations that are particularly targeting or exist to serve this particular constituency. I think there will be a solution to whatever challenges that refugees come with. And so Kenya is still a signatory to the UN conventions and the world. The refugees are part of these agreements that we've signed, that we can host them.
Yeah.
And I think we are managing. The country is managing. Challenges notwithstanding, I think the treaties are serving the world.
All right. On that note, we take a break and we come back and continue this conversation. The state of refugees in Kenya with Turkana West Member of Parliament Daniel Nanok. And as we go on break, let me remind you that the holiday is here and GoTV has got you covered. 6 different shows for kids of all ages. If you have a toddler, let them enjoy shows at 6:55 Zig and Shako on Cartoonito Channel 90 on GoTV Super. You have a teenager? No worries. Let them sign themselves with Henry Danger every Saturday and Sunday 1:30 on Nickelodeon Channel 87 on GoTV Value. Leta raha kwa familia yote na GoTV. Download my GoTV app or dial *423# and stay connected to the fun. GoTV, love it.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This is one of the hottest show that we can ever miss in the morning, and it's a show that really gives the real situation in the Situation Room.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you guys so much. Ndutha, nice meeting you. Even beautiful in person more than in photos.
Say that again. Character is like pregnancy. You cannot hide it. You know, people hiding here and there, you know, but after 2, 3 months, 5 months, now you realize, so that is why the attitude that you were showing us, you're pregnant.
It's like what my grandmother would say. You cannot pickpocket a naked man.
How's that? It's communal, isn't it? No comment.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
15 degrees and mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi, highs of 25 and lows of 14. We'll see lows of 12 in a sunny Nakuru, going to highs of 27. And at 13 degrees, it's cloudy in Nyeri, highs of 23 and lows of 14. And at 13, sunny in Eldoret, highs of 25 and lows of 11. The showers continue in Mombasa at 24, highs of 30 and lows of 23. And we'll see lows of 23 in a rainy Malindi at 25, going to highs of 29. It's sunny at 19 in Kisumu, highs of 31. And we'll see highs of 30 in a sunny Kakamega at 17. It's sunny at 20 in Kampala, highs of 28 and highs of 30 in a mostly sunny Dar es Salaam, currently at 23. 12 degrees and clear in Johannesburg, highs of 23 and lows of 12. And it's mostly clear at 25 in Lagos with highs of 29. We'll see lows of 24. 22 and partly cloudy in Kinshasa, highs of 30 and lows of 20.
Spice up your life.
All right, so what are we looking at now? A lot of movement into the city centre this morning, coming off the Thika Superhighway. It's heavy as you come towards Pangani at the underpass. And we're looking at traffic then also on Jogoro. That started early and it's busy coming in from all corners, getting towards Haile Selassie at the junction. Some traffic coming in from Gong Road. Let's look at North Airport Road, which is extremely busy, heading towards the Outer Ring Junction and then out towards the Eastern Bypass. All right, it's busy everywhere you look this morning. We're able to contend with it. Not much traffic coming out of Waiyaki, out of Westlands generally. Waiyaki Way is busy, and some traffic coming off of James Gishuru. Coming into traffic hour proper now. Let's see what happens closer to 8, and let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It continues this morning with our conversation with Nanok. Daniel Nanok, who's a Turkana West MP, and we have a conversation this morning about the state of refugees in Kenya. We're joined this hour also by our guest host for the hour, and Lucia Ayala joins us this morning. Lucia, good morning.
Good morning to you, Ndu. I'm so happy to be here. Hi, City.
Hi.
It's an honor to be here. I watch you guys a lot of the times, and I'm happy that we are having such conversations in the country currently, rather than just focusing on relationship issues. It's quite important for us to talk about, the other aspects of our life.
Indeed. Lucia is the executive director at the UMA Action, as well as a content creator, and joins us today, this Monday, as our guest host through the show. All right. Before we enter on break, talking about the relationship that Kenya, as a host country, has towards 22 other countries at this point, being a host. And CT, you had a question as we're going to a break.
Yes, for someone to be a refugee, they must be declared as such. Meaning it's like a criteria, it's like an exam. If you meet that criteria. Now, when you mentioned that there are people you find in the camps who don't strike you as being refugees, is it possible for someone to actually get into that camp if UNHCR has not declared you a refugee?
Muga, I imagine you are seeing the camp as a controlled space.
Ish.
The one I have seen in Kakuma and even Kalobeye is an open space.
Anybody can walk in and out.
Anybody can walk in and walk out.
Yeah.
But you are right that there is a process to declare someone a refugee. Yeah. There is in fact, that process now is being undertaken by the officers of the Department of Refugee Services. And the process, they are officers employed to vet anybody who comes to a particular place. There is what is called a reception center. So there is a reception center, and that should be the first call. The first point of call when you come in, seeking that status. But there are guys who do not go through that particular point.
Where do they go?
That reception point. They either know someone in the camp, they have a relative in the camp, and they know where the relative is, so they will just come in and join up. And yes, it's not controlled. This is what I can say. But most of the numbers that we talk of course, there are those that go through that refugee status determination process.
Are there benefits that somebody has when you have been declared a refugee?
Oh yes.
Meaning of the status?
Oh yes. There are definite. There are benefits.
So it is a status that some people will
there are
see.
guys who have been declared to be refugees. They went through the process, and when their country's situation improved, they went back. But they have not denounced
their status as refugees.
Which is one of the requirements.
Yeah. So you would find someone is living in Kitale and they benefit from the camp in Kakuma.
How?
It happens. How, I don't know. But
So,
I've said, these people don't disengage. They already registered themselves and they're refugees.
You know, I am so sorry if I cut you short. What does that then say about accountability structures, security structures that we need to have in place as a country? Because I hear you're talking about the porosity of the camps and the way it's not a controlled environment. But aren't there measures that have been put to make sure that there is a certain structure and a certain way of how things operate? And as you answer that one, this is a burning question also. Mm-hmm. I heard you while I was seated in the other room, and you talked of underfunding. I am meant to understand that the UNHCR gives us a budget of about 10 million in US dollars per annum. That amounts to around 1.2 billion in Kenyan shillings. Is it underfunding or is it mismanagement of funds? And I would really like for you to talk about the accountability part of it, because you're a member of parliament. Oversight is part of your job. Thank you.
Well, Lucia has joined in the fireworks.
Yes.
She has done.
Yeah, I am an active citizen, and I'm sure the people of Turkana West who employed you would love to hear from you also.
Of course they
Let's
do.
get those up.
Of course they do. Which one do I start with? The one of
porosity of the camps. So let's
okay.
start with that one.
As I've told you, the camp is an open space. You know, when you have a controlled place, it means you will have a fence, it means you have gates, it means you have security, station.
You have identification.
Of course. Mm-hmm. And some of those things are done. Mm-hmm. Like the refugees have an identification document.
They do.
They are provided. Mm-hmm. But only those who have gone through the process. Okay? Only those who have landed at the reception center and they have been processed and they have been counted as refugees. In a case where these walk-ins happen, the one I was saying, that person would not be counted. That person most likely may not have the registration documents. Lucia talks of accountability or in terms of how these people live in the camp.
The management.
And that management. The management this is a community. And community is not even a community of 22 nationalities. Even within those 22 nationalities, there are still intra-communities. So you have to devise a way of managing them, administering them, and dealing with them. Now, the responsibility, as I know, of managing that camp is given to the Kenyan government through the Department of Refugee Services.
Right.
It's the one that runs the determination process. It is the one that issues the documents, the refugee documents, and they provide permission or documents for these refugees to travel in and out. That is for those who have been identified and registered. For those that I alluded to as maybe walk-ins, that process may not be correct for them. I may not work, will not be there for them, or will not work for them because they are not registered.
I think the question, I think the question then on that would be then, how is it that we can then have just walk-ins into a refugee camp that is meant to care for folks who are coming from a situation, supposedly, who are coming from a situation of conflict, who are seeking asylum for some other reason, but we are saying that you could just walk in and be given facilities.
Like there's a process, but
what
you
is
can
there?
bypass it.
What is there? Maybe we will be digressing. That is not a major number of refugees. Okay. It may just be about 20 people or 10 people.
Compared to those who are actually
you're talking of 200, 300 people. So 300,000.
Yes.
So maybe if you dig so much into that, we will be digressing from the actual discussion, talking about those walk-ins. Yeah. But in terms of the what was your second question?
The funding. Is it underfunding or mismanagement?
I can't talk for UNHCR, but this is something I got to hear while discussing with her, that they are receiving less funding now because of the situation around the world where interest is going elsewhere. And so what they used to get as UNHCR in order to support the refugees in Kakuma and Dadaab is less than what they have now, and the needs. True. And the numbers are still as high as they were. So the needs are increasing.
So you're saying that what we have is a situation where the number of refugees in our camps are increasing and the funding
is decreasing.
Yes. And it is a global issue. It's a global effect. Right. Why? Because of the wars and what have you that are increasing, and so there are many more refugees and refugee hot points in the world. Those new ones are taking.
What has always puzzled me is when you have refugees, is it by law? Is it legislation that mandates them to always be recipients of assistance, or is there an opportunity for refugees to engage in something gainful that can actually earn them money?
Muga, that's a good question. Actually, that conversation is ongoing. Ignited by UNHCR, the organization that the UN organization that deals with these refugee matters. The refugees came into Kakuma. We were told they were coming for a short time. And then when their countries gets peace,
then they would reintegrate.
Then they will be gone back. They can go back. Surprisingly, South Sudan has been independent now for how many years? 13, 12 years. And South Sudanese are the highest refugees in Kakuma camp.
Why do you think that is so much?
They are not going. And there are more now coming because of the war in Sudan.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are more coming in. But even in South Sudan, those who registered as refugees, they are not going out. When they're not going out of the camp, they're not going back to their country. Yeah.
So
there are those from Burundi, for instance. Burundi is a peaceful country, but those refugees registered from Burundi are in the camp, and they're there.
A country may be peaceful, but you may belong to
okay.
But you may belong to a group that unfortunately is targeted or marginalized.
So that is the situation.
Yes.
And so the numbers are like stagnant, if not increasing. And so the needs are increasing. There are those who are born in these camps 30 years down the line.
30?
Yes.
Yeah.
From 92?
Yes, there are those
who
came into the camps. Because
in
that's
1992.
The situation. That we know that there are folks who came into the camps as children, who came in
and they're now
married,
early adult.
Absolutely. And they got married. The thing is that the truth is, a country hosts a camp as large as Kakuma. You know, there are very few as big as that in other parts of the world. Germany, Ethiopia have such large numbers, right?
Okay.
However, if you host and there's funding for it, the likelihood of you as a host nation to want to then be involved in what is going on is very low because somebody is footing the bill.
Yeah.
There's no way today that there will be dwindling of those funds and then the Kenya government will suddenly sit up and say, okay, well, let's pick up the slack for whatever is left over. Because no, we'll provide you with the land, we'll provide you with the basic security and amenities, but then for the funding of this thing to keep running, you said we've hosted. Don't expect us to now start to deliver in terms of resources, money. Right? So if the situation around the world, and we've accepted that those who've signed the Refugee Charter, those who've signed these other human rights charter and say, yes, we can host in one way or another, do we then expect that, what do you expect when wars and rumors of wars are happening around the world, and the refugee status, whether you like it or not, percentages will increase. It will increase. Yeah. You can't then expect, and this is you can't then expect that the funding will go up. It will go down. So difficult decisions then need to be made in terms of what is going to happen. You said people are not leaving.
Yeah. That is why I said that UNHCR is leading in that conversation to say, we thought it was a passing, a support for a short while. But now it looks like we need permanent solutions. We need a sustainable operation for refugees. And that has brought new thinking. It has brought thoughts of developing these camps. How? World Bank is involved in some project that improves livelihoods of refugees. These people, by the way, are now farming. Some of them are involved in farm activities to produce their own food. There is also the question of, do they get food rations, or are they given subsidy, fund money to buy, so as to improve the business environment within the camp and the host community. Thereby, buying and selling is encouraged.
There was also this conversation of allowing refugees who perhaps had stayed for a certain length of time a new status, one which allows you to actually get into the citizenry.
It has begun, yeah.
Work, meaning, yes, you started off as a refugee, but you then now have a legal right to actually seek employment, get a livelihood. Do you see many people or do you hear, when you spoke to the person in charge of refugees in the country, do you hear of this program working well?
I haven't heard of it actually. That of employment, seeking employment like the rest of us.
Yes. It's there.
In fact, Muga, the rest of us don't have jobs.
Yes.
The rate of unemployment in this country is bad. Now, are you seeing the kind of competition that will come in?
200,000 people, not too much competition.
In my constituency, it's not funny when a refugee gets something to do ahead of the host community member. It's not interesting. So, you may have, if you have a special skill, if you have like for instance a doctor, and you decide to open your own clinic as a refugee, of course that is business, and that is selling your skill. That you don't, that is facilitated. That is possible. The way a shop owner, has, a refugee starts a business, a shop business.
Yes.
That is allowed, and it is running, and the government documents are provided at the county level, at the national level,
for that to take place.
For that to happen.
As a citizen of this country, it's already very challenging for me to register a business, leave alone even starting it, because where am I getting the capital from, first of all? So I'm imagining how much more harder it's going to be for a refugee to start a business in this country, because, those challenges. But then I would also like to point out, because I have interacted with a few organizations that deal with refugees. I watched a documentary film that was done, I think, about 2 months ago. And one of the things that keep popping up with the challenges that the refugees are facing is also police harassment, Similar to the same way when you walk around town and you're a young person and you have dreadlocks, especially for the men, and you're like around the age of 24 to 35, the police will harass you. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just walking from point A to point B, and you're asked for your ID. You know, there's all these things.
They will tell you it's prevention.
Yeah, and then they tell you, oh, you've committed, or they arrest you and they tell you you're loitering. I'm going home from work. How is that loitering? So it's the same challenge that the refugees are facing. So when we sit here and we say maybe if they start a business or this or that, isn't that reaching? Because it's already super difficult for us who are locals to start those businesses.
Lucia, you know, you are talking maybe from watching that documentary and hearing what he said.
Yeah.
I live in this town,
yes,
which hosts refugees. I actually visit the camp. Sometimes I go buy my merchandise
from the camp.
From the camp. They own businesses. How they get the money, I can't tell you. Some of them have very good money.
But they're refugees.
You know what? And they're refugees. There is money transfers coming from outside.
Wherever it comes from,
From
yes.
the world.
Yeah.
From Canada. From US. US dollars. And they get to that camp. By the way, if you go to Kakuma camp, you will get all manner of businesses. Businesses that you run in this Nairobi are in Nairobi, are in Kakuma,
and running
in
maybe
Kakuma
better.
camp. Run by who? By the refugees. Some of these refugees, by the way, let's appreciate one thing. The refugees that come in are not just average people. Some of them are highly educated. Some of them ran from their country with big positions, portfolios. So they have the means and they have the wherewithal. It's just that they, for one reason or the other, could not be where they come from. But it's not everybody. Of course, and maybe when I say that, that's how many people are normally rich in our society. Maybe 5% out of a whole 95 are the rest. So even in this camp case, that is what obtains. There are those who are doing well, but there are those who are completely dependent on the support of the UNHCR, the food, the shelter.
It's an important conversation to have. Time does run out. Mheshimiwa, thank you for being with us here this morning. And I think one that can be had again in the future. The conversation continues. It's 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is News. I'm Dennis Aseto. President William Ruto has said the government is keen on increasing the country's savings. He said these would wean the country off foreign borrowing, which has crippled the economy. He noted that the country had only saved 350 billion shillings in the last 60 years in the National Social Security Fund. He, however, pointed out that the government has reversed the trend and is on course to double NSSF savings within 4 years.
The money we saved in NSSF is about 350 billion shillings in the last 60 years. But because of the new formula that we have agreed and we have begun implementing the last 4 months, we are going to double that money, the 350 billion. We are going to double that money in 4 short years. And in a very short while, maybe 10, 15 years, we would not need to borrow from elsewhere. We can borrow our own money as Kenyans.
The head of state also reiterated his ambitious plan to provide employment opportunities for the Kenyan youth, saying that he is willing to go to any lengths to achieve this goal. He stated that his government has made deliberate interventions to provide working opportunities for the youth, starting with the housing plan.
It wasn't so much about the houses. It was so much about the jobs for the young people of Kenya. We have never had a comprehensive program, deliberate, intentional, to create opportunities for the young people of Kenya to have a job, to have an income. I'm very happy that this time round, we not only have a plan, we have clear interventions, we have money to do it, and we have a clear plan.
Nominated Member of Parliament Sabina Chege has assured that the Jubilee Party is intact under her leadership. The interim party leader of Jubilee said the party respects William Ruto as Kenya's president, urging former President Uhuru Kenyatta to respect the constitution, shine away from active politics and retire honorably. Under her leadership, Chege said Jubilee National Executive Council will soon call all members for a meeting to discuss the way forward in early preparations for the 2027 general elections.
Chama iko sawa na sisi tulienda katika harakati tukaingia na kina Lemiso, tulikuwa watu wa Azimio. Mko hapa watu wa Azimio? Tulikuwa wengi, unajua mimi upenda kusema ukweli. Na tukangangana. Hawa kina Harama tukatucheza kidogo, tukaenda, mimi mwenyewe nikanulia mzee viatu, tukapanda kwa mlima, lakini vile tulifika pale juu, tukatereza kidogo, tukaanguka. Na mimi ni mmoja naamini ya kwamba asiyekubali kushindwa, si ndio namna hiyo? Hata ukishindwa na kura moja. Unajua hii maneno ya Azimio, tuliachana tu na kura 74,000, tungekuwa na nini?
An Interior Cabinet Secretary, Kithure Kindiki, has cautioned Azimio politicians against instigating violence to gain an upper hand in talks, saying the security operators will remain vigilant against such acts. Kindiki, speaking in Nyeri, said security agencies will not allow destruction of property, as witnessed during the recent opposition protests that degenerated into riots in some parts of the country.
Tunataka niwahakikishie wananchi wote wa Jamhuri ya Kenya, never again will anybody threaten the peace, stability and tranquility of our country using any reason whatsoever. Tumesikia sasa wanasiasa wameenda kuongea. Sisi kama walinda usalama hatuna shida, hiyo ni mambo ya demokrasia. Watu ya upinzani na watu ya serikali wakitaka kuongea mambo ya siasa ni sawa, on one condition. Hiyo mazungumzo isipofaulu, kusiwe mtu atatishia watu tena ati kwa sababu yale mazungumzo hatujazikizana ati sasa tunarudi kuumiza raia.
The University Fund has availed scholarships and loans for 130,485 students in public universities, while 9,662 students placed in private universities will receive loans out of the 140,107 placed universities. In the new funding model for the new cohort of students joining universities and technical and vocational education and training institutions, the government has availed 19.6 billion shillings for the funding institutions. University Fund Chief Executive Officer Geoffrey Monari pointed out that in the current financial year, the budget estimation exceeds the number of students placed under the centralized system by the Kenya Universities and Colleges Placement Board. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Alcedo. Good morning.
Traffic on Vibes Radio.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, so what are we looking at a few minutes after 8 o'clock now? Traffic in different parts of the city as is. On the Thika Superhighway, still pretty heavy as you're coming in towards Pangani at the underpass. It's always that bottleneck right there that doesn't really let traffic smooth on through as everybody's trying to go in different directions. As you then come in past the drift, you'll get there, and then there's also traffic coming in from Kiambu Road, and that's going to take you then through towards Muthaiga Square. Coming out of Westlands is now when it's starting to pick up, and we're also seeing some movement on Limuru Road this morning, coming in from Kitisuru, out past the Village Market, and then on through towards the hospital, out into the city. So that continues this morning, and really busy wherever it is that you look. Spice of MKE on Twitter, around about 8 o'clock. Let's see what happens in half hour or so, and keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
The only way to start your day. It's at 7 minutes after 8 o'clock. Welcome to the third hour. Is it? It is the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. Wherever you're tuned in, our live streams are up on YouTube, on Facebook, and we're also live on KTN. And Ndu Okoh and C.T. Muga with you this morning. Our guest host also, one name, Lucia. I've decided it will be one name.
There are people who actually combine the two of them and they call me Luciella.
Let's do that.
Okay, Luciella.
Oh.
We've heard you.
Yeah. It's not difficult to figure out those things. That one we do. All right. Our guest host for the hour is the Executive Director of UMA Action. And using voices for change, absolutely, and joins us through the Situation Room this morning. The hot seat is occupied already this morning, coming few minutes after 8 o'clock. For the first time in the Situation Room on Kenya's biggest conversation, His Excellency Dr. Wilbur Hasilwa Otichilo. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine and I'm happy for the first time to be in this studio.
Thank you very much for honoring our invitation and for being here this morning. For those who do not know, or for those who've been asleep, or for those who don't live in Kenya, or for those who don't live on the planet, His Excellency is the governor, second-term governor of Vihiga County, and joins us this morning to have a conversation, devolution, and looking at what has happened over the last 10 years and what hopes are in store for the next 5 in devolution. The country heads to Wasingishu County this morning, starting for the 8th devolution conference that takes place from tomorrow until Friday, to have conversations about how the devolved units will function over the next 5 years under this new administration. And even as we get into those conversations in Eldoret this week, the conversation in the room this morning is around the CIDPs.
Yes.
And to find out what exactly those have in store for counties moving in. Mheshimiwa, karibu sana. To welcome you properly.
Yes.
To the show, C.T. Muga has today's proverb.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the country of Niger. By progression, the direction we normally take with our proverbs, I was going to go to the southern part of Africa. But I was drawn to the turmoil that is now visiting the western part of this continent. And I thought that perhaps relooking at some of the proverbs that come from that country might give us an inkling as to how it is they view the world and how it is they go about their business. Now, the capital of Niger, as you all know, is Niamey. And as you also all know, they recently had a coup.
Yeah.
A successful one, meaning the military actually took over. Oh, they attempted coups that don't work. We've had them in this country.
True.
So this one actually worked. Okay. The proverb. Only a medicine man gets rich by sleeping.
Okay. How?
Well, we're going to ask you what
Mheshimiwa is asking how. So let's ask you, Mheshimiwa.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
How do you...
How?
You are rich by just sleeping?
Wow. Only if you're a medicine man.
If you are a medicine man.
Medicine man, yes.
Yes.
Now, it is a broad spectrum. You could be a rainmaker.
Yeah.
Mheshimiwa would be familiar with that term.
Yes, I'm very familiar with rainmakers because I come from a county where...
Oh, I thought you were going to say you are one.
Yes, I come from that clan.
His ancestors were rainmakers.
My ancestors were rainmakers, and they are still those who are there who still believe they can make rain come down, or they can stop rain
from coming down.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think about these medicine men who are making money while they sleep?
Well, I think to be able to be asleep and be rich, it means that here is somebody who may be just using his ingenious way of doing things by just telling people, I can do this, and people believe that he can do it, and they'll pay him or her for services that you may not be able to know whether you receive the services, or if they don't, you will be still told that you didn't receive it because something else happened. Yeah. So I think is, in my understanding, we hear people who make money without doing much, without doing anything, but they are so ingenious in the way that they convince others to believe in them.
The master invigilator.
Well, my colleagues keep comparing these proverbs to an exam, and so I'm asked on a scale of 1 to 10, how has someone done? You've gotten 10 because we want your opinion.
Yeah.
And that's what you've given us.
So I mean,
there's no right or wrong.
What's more to
no right or wrong.
You cannot possibly be wrong in interpreting a proverb.
Yeah.
Well,
so any answer is a good answer.
Everything is a good answer. Yes.
It's a good answer.
Yes.
Well done, Governor. So now, with questions that may not receive a well done, as we're going into conversations about devolution, we're seeing stories before we even get into the CIDPs and getting into this week and seeing the conversations that are going to be had in Eldoret about what will happen over the next 5 years for devolution in this country. The representatives of the devolved units, being county executives, governors, will be there having these conversations. There will be those interested parties who are discussing what counties need, whether they need that on an individual basis, or whether they will be working in concert for what will happen. The stories that we see today are very grim. One of them being that counties over the last 10 years since devolution has been in practice, because we know that devolution was written into the Constitution in 2010. It did not start until 2013, really. But since that time, that number one, revenue targets have never been met by any devolved unit. We've had units that have done well, but targets have never been met. The development index has not been reached yet. Are we being too ambitious, or are we saying that there's a problem here? If you were to give an overview of devolution across counties, if you did a bird's eye view, what does it look like for you?
Thank you for that very interesting but very important question. First and foremost, I want to say that devolution is the best thing that has ever happened to this country. And in the last 10 years of devolution, we have witnessed a lot of development across the country. Although this has not been quantitatively documented, but I can tell you that what has been achieved in the last 10 years is what we failed to achieve in the last 50 years of independence. And I would want to say that devolution has brought equity, which was not there before. Before, you may recall, we used to have what we used to be called district planning committees. And those committees were chaired by the district commissioner. And he was the alpha and omega who decided where any development goes. And it were politically, biased. And particularly if we had politicians who came from those areas who opposed the government, they will never get any development. But devolution, despite of political affiliation, we are having an equitable sharing of revenue. But what I want to say is that 15% is so little compared to the 85% that remain at the national level. And one of the biggest challenge I would want to highlight that has led down to not accelerated positive outcomes of devolution is that the functions have been devolved, but the functions have not been followed with the money. You find that the 15% that is supposed to come to the counties, if you compare with the overall revenue of the country, you find it's only 15%. And if you calculate for the last 10 years, we rarely hit 15%. It's been around 9 to 13%.
Where does the rest of it go? Where does the rest of it go?
Well, because of the issue of audited accounts, some of the accounts have never been audited for a long time. So for that reason, you find that we are still using audited accounts of 5-6 years ago, and yet the revenue the country is collecting is higher. So I would want to say that despite of everything, devolution has made a significant impact to this country at the county level. And some of the counties that were so, I would say in quotes, so backward in development, there's a lot, particularly if you take the northern Kenya counties, where we didn't have many facilities like health facilities. Today you can hear they can now do operation of patients in Wajir, in Mandela, in Moyale, which was not there before.
Governor, you said just a few months ago that, I mean, even as you talk about these challenges, not 15%, not quite 15%, maybe a little bit more needed from the budget. But a few months ago, you said that the one thing that would ground devolution in this country is corruption.
Yes.
Why?
I said this because, corruption, is like let's start at the national level. I must say that one of the biggest problem that has, stopped this country from moving forward is corruption at the national level. And corruption is probably the biggest challenge we may be having in this country. And as a result of devolution, it is true that to quite a big extent, corruption has also been devolved in many sectors at the county level. And if we do not take a very strong position to fight corruption, then corruption is likely again to make our dream of having the counties not progress because most of the resources will end up not in the right hands, not in the right development programs.
If I may, Governor, I am trying to be very polite today so that the village elders back at home don't come for me in the evening the way they came for Mercy Tarus.
Yeah.
The county governments are all in Uasin Gishu.
Yes.
Where we currently have the Finland scholarship saga.
Yes.
Corruption is involved in that one.
Correct.
Has any of the other 46 governors called out the governor of Uasin Gishu, the former governor of Uasin Gishu, who's now the senator, who's supposed to be oversighting the mistakes he did in the previous time? We cannot say we are fighting corruption when we are not holding each other accountable. I expect all the governors in Uasin Gishu County to hold Uasin Gishu County accountable for the monies that these families have lost. Because I know I am a person who has an undergraduate degree. I did my undergraduate in Kabarak University. And I saw the sacrifice it took for my parent to pay my school fees. And it was not pretty. It was not pretty watching your parent struggle like that just to give you an education. And I can understand how those parents are feeling. And you're a parent.
Yes.
If someone swindled you your money that you were to pay school fees for your children, how would you be feeling? And if we are going to stop corruption, then we need you leaders to start holding each other accountable. Why is it so difficult for the rest of you to just stand and say, the governor of Uasin Gishu and your entire county government, we need answers from you as your colleagues? Why is that so difficult? Why is it so difficult when our president says next week we are going to be buying unga ya mahindi at 150 shillings? 3 months later, we are buying the same maize meal for 250 shillings. And none of you have stood up and said, Mr. President, you said 2 next week. 3 months ago, it's 3 months down the line. Our people are suffering. You are our voices. You are supposed to be representing us. But most of the time when you talk, we don't feel represented. And if there's a Kenyan out there who feels represented when the person they elected speaks, raise your hand.
Lucia,
I will wait.
This is you being polite.
Yes.
Okay.
Very. Actually, very.
Okay.
You know,
so maybe Mheshimiwa can address that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really understand you, and I really feel how you are feeling, and even those students, how they are feeling because of what happened. But as governors, we find ourselves in a catch-22 situation, whereby, as a governors, we are actually managers. We are supposed to manage the counties in terms of leadership and in terms of development. So we, as much as we would like to come out very clear and condemn and ask answers to this unfortunate situation that has happened in Uasin Gishu, we find ourselves in a situation where we need to be able to discuss together and find, here is a colleague. And therefore, it's not very easy to put an agenda to discuss one of your colleagues. But what I would say is that the key, if you look in terms of the leadership system in our country, the key people who would raise this are our parliamentarians, our MCAs, because that is their role. Their role is oversight, representation. Mm-hmm. So I would, while I agree with you that one way or so we must find a way to reprimand ourselves or to be able to, gauge ourselves and say, look, we are together, we are a family, and we cannot allow this to happen. Mm-hmm. And in this case, we are also finding ourselves in a very tricky situation. This matter happened when one of our colleagues, who has now exited from being a governor, was there. Mm-hmm. Now, the person who is there now is a new governor, who I would say he's so innocent. Innocent in the sense that he has inherited a problem which he was not part and parcel. So that's why, as a Council of Governors, we have left that matter to be handled at the county level. But in case it reaches a level where we as a Council of Governors will be able to be required to intervene, then we'll do so.
Yeah. Can we, even as we talk about the inheritance of issues here and then coming back and looking at what's happening this week, crucial conversations being had this week about what counties plan. Devolution 10 years ago is something that did not exist, obviously, in Kenya before. And now we're looking at units of the country which may not have seen development as quickly as they had if devolution did not come into play. The CIDPs are vital.
Yes.
for the next 5 years. It's essentially the plan that each county will have for development over 5 years of an administration. Implementation of these plans seems to be the bottleneck that most counties face. Whether it is budgets, whether it is activities around county budgets, whether it is implementation activities then around these plans. What would you say is the problem? Why these CIDPs oftentimes don't come from plans to activities to then actual implementation? What's the problem?
Thank you for that good question. CIDPs, or county integrated development plans, are required every 5 years after election to be prepared in a participatory manner through public participation. And that, after that is done, that forms now the blueprint of development agenda for each of the counties. And once that is been formulated, it is expected to be implemented. And the implementation requires resources. So there are many options of resources. The main resource for counties is the shareable revenue, which we receive from the national government through Treasury and approved by control of budget. One of the key areas of concern that has led to implementation slowing down is the disbursement of funds from Treasury to the counties. That has always been a problem, and it's a common knowledge that every time you have had governors, threatening that unless money is given, is released, we may ground down our activity. So that is one of the key areas of concern. Why some of the CADPs projects are not implemented. But the other is that we also project a collection of revenue from the wananchi, from our people. But when it comes in the actual collection, you find the revenues are always below the targeted in amount. So you end up actually collecting very little money, and therefore you cannot implement the projects. And that if you had already started the projects, and then you don't collect what you projected to collect, then you end up with these famous pending bills. And that's why you have had many counties have pending bills, because they projected they will collect the money, and therefore they went ahead and implemented the projects. But at the end of the year, they didn't collect. So,
Excellence, we have to. This is a question we have to ask.
Yes.
When we're looking at the newspaper headlines, what you're saying came up.
Yeah.
How is it that this is a continuum? Projections are never actualized. It's a continuum. So, what is it? Do you overproject? Do you undercollect? Or do you actually collect? But what is remitted and what is recorded is not what was projected. Which is it?
I think it's a mix of all what we have said.
I was expecting you to say that.
Do you have a follow-up question to that?
Yes, I do. I was waiting for him to say that. I can now ask him the real question I actually wanted to ask him.
Can we take a break and then you can ask the follow-up question?
Yes.
Okay, let's take a break on that. It's 29 minutes to 9 o'clock. And even as we take a break, as we have this conversation on devolution and the counties with His Excellency Governor Otichilo from Vihiga County, I'm going to remind you that October 29th is the day when the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon will take place. It's the 20th edition. For 20 years, people have been coming together from around the world to run, and to run for a good cause. And in this case, it's for the future makers, to say that a child gets an opportunity to go to school. A child gets an opportunity to look towards a future that they wouldn't ordinarily have. It's for those who live with disabilities, and it's with those who wouldn't get another shot at life. So www.nairobimarathon.com. 2,000 shillings. Register and start training today and take part in the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon on the 29th of October. All right, let me remind you also that all roads lead to Nakuru County on the 26th of August for Choma Nangoma. Radio Maisha is taking this party out into Nakuru County for the first time. Fantastic artists will be in store for you. Great performances. Nachoma Nangoma on the 26th of August this month.
Your Excellency, I am a great admirer.
When you're impeached, you're impeached. When you're sentenced, you're sentenced.
Madam Chief Justice.
Until the sentence is set aside.
Ukibeba vitu kwa roho utakufa. If you carry things in your heart, you will die.
The reason for which you went to school and then gathered experience, that reason must be paid for.
All right.
Okay.
This level.
Shape up or ship out.
Levels don't change.
No. It's about shipping up. You're my business partner here.
Shipping out.
Are we talking about the ship in the bathtub? Or
the ship man?
Emmanuel Talabu used to tell us a story of they were in school and they've been told to write composition about a ship. His classmate raises a hand. Teacher?
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 16, highs of 25 and lows of 14. We'll see lows of 12 in a sunny Nakuru at 15. It's cloudy at 16 in Nyeri and 15 and sunny in Eldoret. Light rain showers continue in Mombasa at 25 and it's also raining at 27 in Malindi. It's 22 and sunny in Kisumu and 20 and sunny in Kakamega. 22 and sunny conditions in Kampala and we'll see light rain showers continuing in Dar es Salaam at 25. The sun is up at 14 in Johannesburg and it's now raining at 25 in Lagos. It's partly sunny at 21 in Kinshasa. Morning, but it seems they're going to be able to handle this one. Some traffic coming off the Thika Superhighway as you get to that survey area. After you've been able to use the service lanes coming all the way through, you're going to get stuck just a little bit as you get into the Pangani underpass. And apart from that, shouldn't be too painful as you try to get into the city. We're also looking at traffic on Jogo Road, which hasn't turned into much this morning. So yay for that. Landis Road is busy as you get towards the Kamkunji roundabout, and it'll slow you down some as you're getting onto Haile Selassie. The traffic coming off from Gong Road is not too painful this morning, all manageable. So this is a good thing. Coming off Langata Road also has not been giving too heavily. So we're going to keep an eye on things and see how that opens up closer to 9. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Let's keep things moving as Monday morning.
Online, mobile, and on radio. Twitter at SpiceFMKE. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
County conversation and devolution on Kenya's biggest conversation. CT, do you remember the question?
Off air, I was telling His Excellency that I've been a great admirer of his, and for a very simple reason. His tenure as a member of parliament debunked a certain conversation that is considered to be the foundation on which political careers are built, giving people handouts. And yet, from everything I've heard, Dr. Otichilo does the complete opposite, doesn't give people money. Now he's governor. It means the people of Vihiga were happy not to be given money. There's actually no other interpretation. And he's not a one-term governor. So it means He has not been giving out handouts, and yet he's been elected again. Now, what is it that makes the job of a governor difficult? That really is my question. Because as an MP, one would assume the responsibilities are less.
Yeah.
As governor, you cover a much larger area, more constituencies. What makes the job of a governor difficult?
Thank you for that question. What makes the job of a governor very difficult is expectations. The expectations are very high. And there is this perception that has been ingrained in people that, the governor is the one who handles all this money. He is the one who says where the money should be spent, who should get and who should not, which is not the case. Because the money for expenditure in the county has to go through a budgetary process, which is well clearly defined in the Public Finance Management Act. So the biggest problem many governors face is that they become part, or they succumb to that perception that you must provide, you must, when people come to you, you must do what they're having to make them happy. But that's one area I've said no. I've said we know the process, how the money in every county is procured, how the budgeting process is done, and that's the procedure to be followed. And there's no any extra money as a governor I get that would be said that this one you can use for giving out to your friends or people who are in a problem. No. Whatever I get my salary. And my salary is meant to take care of me. So I clearly, blindly tell my people that, look, I do not have any extra money from anywhere.
So your second term in office,
yes,
Governor, what would that look like? So there's certain factors here that many would say would be a monkey on your back, right? So it's your final term that you're in now.
Yeah.
According to the rules, this is it. You also then have been recognized on the continent, interestingly enough, as a man who gets a job done. All right, with those awards that we saw earlier in the year. What do you hope to achieve? Especially also now that we're coming at a time where the plans for the counties are being made. What do you hope to achieve? What would it be that you want to leave behind, Vihiga?
My dream, and I hope it comes true, my dream for Vihiga County, and by extension, if it can happen in the 47 counties, my dream is to put a very solid governance system. Because I think one of the biggest problems we have in this country, even at the national level and to extension at the county level, is weak governance system. So my dream for this period is to really make sure that I have a strong governance system in place. And to have strong governance system, we must have proper policies on each of the sectors. We must do proper legislation, which are very, are in line or in tune with what we expect. And then we need also the perception of our people to change. So in the governance system, we need to focus on transparency and accountability, which is the biggest problem we have. Because most people go into the civil service because they think that there is an easy way to make money. So accountability and transparency is something that needs to be reinforced. And to do that, I believe if performance contracting was done properly, we would see a lot of efficiency in service delivery. Second, if we had a proper system of reprimand for those who make mistakes or those who attempt to subvert the system in terms of transparency and accountability, they should be punished. But unfortunately, some of the laws we have done or we have made, they have made it even very difficult. Like we have this law of fair administration of justice. It's a good law. It assumes an ideal life where people are able to follow rules and regulations. But when you, in real sense, you find that people don't follow that. So when you want to punish somebody who has done a mistake, let's say you want to reprimand, they say you must follow so many stages. And if you don't, the person goes to court and is returned back. So those are some of the laws that we need to re-examine. But for me, if you fix governance in our counties, the rest will work. Because if you fix governance, it means once the budget is done, the CIDP has been done, the annual work plan, which is derived from the CIDP has been done, and you say, this is your job, you are the minister, you are the principal secretary, in our case we call them chief of SARS, these are the projects you are going to implement. I sign a performance contracting with you and say this is what you do, and every quarter you must report. If that works, things will work seamlessly. And where there is a problem, it will be clear. The person would say, I was not able to implement this because probably the money was not released or something was happened.
But it seems to me that we have to, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Governor, but it just seems as though we then have to prescribe, again, upon what should have been an understanding, clear in the minds of everybody what they're supposed to be doing. The assumption is that if you ask, because you're not sitting in your house and somebody says, person X, come and apply for this job to be chief officer of Vihiga County, you offer yourself up. Somebody may recommend you, but then you acquiesce to that and you say, yes, I will. For the greater good of the county, I will do this job. But we seem to have to want to coax people to do their job. We seem to want to have to coax folks to say, okay, please don't steal the county's money. You know? As though you didn't know that it is what is required of you or it is what is not required of you. But why do we, at this level of government, still have to beg people to do their job?
There is a culture in this country where people who are very qualified, they apply for a job, and when they get the job, once they are in the job, they don't want to do what the job requires them to do. So there is a culture in this country where people believe, and particularly in public service, is a place where you just go and sit around and you can make your quick money quickly, and you can be able to not even come to job. You don't report to work, but you will be paid. There is a culture where, and this is a very serious culture, where now, and I hope the current government, I'm in the government, so I'm also implementing the same. This question of people just spending time in seminars and workshops. I can tell you, we spend so much time, so much money in seminars and workshops that end up with just piling recommendations that don't.
That's very scary because as we speak, people are all roads lead to Eldoret.
Yes.
All roads lead to Eldoret today for a 4-day conference meeting seminar to make plans for things that you are saying will not happen.
Yeah.
You know, isn't that scary?
Yeah. So that's we spent, and if you check in the government systems, most people, even in simple meetings, that you would just sit. I'm impressed by the way your sitting arrangement here. I'm very impressed. I wish I could do that in Vihiga, where everybody sits the way you sit here. But you know, you find that even simple meetings where people would just decide to sit in one room and discuss, you find they have to go to a hotel.
Governor, I have a question.
Yes,
we've had a problem of continuity of development projects. I wouldn't even say it's in this country alone. I think it's in the entire continent. So this administration comes, they start doing this. The next administration comes, that one did not end with the project, so they stop there. They start doing something else with the CIDPs. The ones that you've put in place for 5 years, is it meant to be something continuous so that when the next governor comes in, like it's a bigger picture for Vihiga County? Or will the next governor come in the next election cycle and go like, now what former governor was doing was for former governor, now me, I want to do things for me?
Ideally, the way this was structured in the County Government Act is that it's supposed to be a continuum. A CIDP is not a creation of the governor in place. It's a creation of the people. So when we go during the CIDP formulation process, it is people who say what they want in their respective areas, and that is captured, collated together, and that's what forms the CIDP. So ideally, even after the term of the governor is over, the governor who comes in should continue. Should continue and should not start any new projects until the old projects are completed. And common sense tells us so. Why would you want to start a new project when the old one that was started and probably you only need to just put a little money in it and finish? So that's what happens. But again, as you rightly said, when the culture in this country is that, when new leadership come in, they forget and all what the other leader was doing and say, I'm going to do my own. And that's some of the biggest problems why we have so many stalled projects.
Do you think that the responsibility of these stalled projects or the accountability index having not been reached should fall squarely on the shoulders of the county executive being governors, for example? If we go through all the trouble, it's not easy work to come up with a CIDP.
Yes,
it is a lot of work.
Yes.
There are people who work under the county. They're the clerks and the researchers who are running around doing all of these things. They're looking at the implementation matrices. They're looking at all of these things. And then we come and we whittle it down to maybe a delay from the National Treasury.
From Treasury, yeah.
Which for me cannot always be the reason. So a question that my brother here asks all the time is, okay, the little that they gave you, what can we see that you actually did with it? 2 to 3 weeks ago, we saw cabinet secretaries under the auspices of the president sign a contract, essentially saying that if I don't do this thing, I can go home. Essentially, that's what you're saying.
Correct.
Do you think that kind of responsibility ought to be placed on the shoulders of the county executives? Because if it doesn't happen, 10 years, we can say, okay, fine. We gave it a little bit of time to crawl, grow teeth, now start to gnaw on hard food. But after 10 years, surely something must have happened. Do you think county bosses should take responsibility if we do not see a certain level of development taking place in the counties?
Exactly. That's why I said that in terms of governance, it is mandatory that at a county level, the chief officers, the CEC members should be placed on performance contracting. And I'm happy that I've set a stage. My CECs, I signed with them a performance contracting on last Friday. So, and coming week, I'll be signing with the chief officers so that you hold them accountable. Because you see, while you expect money to come from the treasury, but there is certain preparations you have to make. And many times you find that the chief officers don't make those preparations. They want the money to be received fast. And that, again, is wrong. Because you should be able to plan. By the time you're getting the money, even the procurement process, you should have done it. And that's where accountability becomes a key issue. And I agree that without holding these chief officers and the senior people in the government to account, then they just take it as a laissez-faire matter. And People just stay there and years go and they move out.
You've been in leadership now for a while. What would you say is the irrefutable effect that sound leadership brings to bear on the people? I'm asking it in this context. I could say the people of Vihiga are very unique in that they accepted to vote for a person who's refusing to give them money.
Yes.
But on the other hand, I would also argue that they were waiting for somebody who could actually stand by certain values which they hold, but they hadn't found one. So when this one came along, they said, okay,
take it.
This is what we've been waiting for. Thank you, we are going to follow. So my question, the irrefutable influence that positive leadership has.
I think the influence the leader should have to have confidence of the people is to have very straightforward principle. People must trust you and must believe in you, and you must live by your word. Your actions must actually show what you say is what you do. So like for me, as much as I don't do what other politicians do, but I make it clear that as a leader, I'll give the people the right advice and show them the right thing to do and say, this is how we will do it, and I will take the lead, but you must also play your role.
Your role. Climate change is a conversation that comes into the devolved units agenda all the time. We saw that with the biting drought that happened over the last 4 years, that things became really thick for counties, specific counties in particular. What is the climate change agenda? And I know that conversations will be had around such in Eldoret this week, but what is it, and why is it then important that the devolved units get involved in this conversation?
Climate change is probably, I would say, the one single most threat that mankind is facing today, because it threatens the survival of mankind on this planet. And this is a long-term process. It's a process that has taken a long time to reach where we are, the so-called global warming. And this global warming is as a result of our own human activities, which actually are interpreted as development. So in our development agenda, as we develop, as we bring industries and so on, we have over years destabilized the normal functioning systems of the planet that makes life possible on this planet. Therefore, the level where we have reached, it needs a concerted effort globally so that we can confront this matter globally, the way we did COVID-19. So climate change is such an important matter at the county level, because climate change affects people most at the local level, and particularly women, children, people living with disability. Because why does it do so? Because it is affecting the climatic weather systems. And you know, our production systems are based on weather.
Yeah.
So when we have droughts, there's no food production. When we have floods, we have destruction of property, infrastructure. So climate change is a matter of concern, and it's a matter that has to be addressed globally, regionally, nationally, and locally. And I'm happy that Kenya has taken a major stride in climate change matters. And I would want to say that we are a leader on the continent in terms of climate matters. When it comes to legal framework, we have. we have both policy and legal frameworks that we have already formulated. When it comes to climate change implementation plans, we have them. One of the key problems we have had, and that is a question that we all know in this country, is implementation. Implementation has been the issue. So as a country, we must take climate change very seriously. And I want to say that for us in the Council of Governors, I'm the chair of Environment and Climate Change. And I'm proud and happy to say that in the last 3 or 4 years, we have been able to influence all the 47 counties to come up with the policy and legal frameworks are in place. We have made it mandatory that every county must have a directorate of climate change. So we have director of climate change. We made a very deliberate effort to say that in our legal framework, we must make it mandatory that part of our budget must go to address climate change issues, because climate change issues are cross-cutting.
Yeah.
So in each of our 47 legal frameworks, we have agreed that 2 to 3% of our budget should be dedicated to climate change mitigation and adaptation measures that aim to have resilience in terms of dealing with climate change. So that we have put in place, and I would say that that's a very great step, because the biggest problem globally on climate change debate has been the funding.
Yes.
So we have said for us, because climate change is affecting us, we cannot wait for funding. We
have
must
to do
fund.
something now.
We must do something.
Our
So at the county
yeah.
level, we are doing something.
Our time is winding down. Really quick last point from you, even as we go towards that, is in the next 4 years, because that's what you have left, what are the people of Vihiga expecting? What should they expect from you?
Wow, the people of Vihiga, God willing, they should expect that first and foremost, I am determined to implement the CIDP that they have prepared and given it to me to implement. And my key areas of interest, as I said earlier, I want to put a very strong governance system in Vihiga. When I leave, it will not matter who comes in as a governor.
Indeed.
We'll find the systems in place that he or she will have to follow. So that's the first one.
Yeah.
The second one, I'm more keen to make sure that the healthcare system, when I leave, I want to leave a self-sustaining healthcare system where the healthcare system, the health facility should raise their own money through the NHIF, be able to have the money spent at source and be able to manage the health facilities without having to depend on exchequer releases.
We'll definitely love to have you back and see how all that is going. His Excellency Dr. Wilbur Hasilwa Otichilo, thank you for being our guest this morning on Kenya's Biggest Conversation.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President William Ruto is in Eldoret ahead of the start of the Devolution conference that is slated to start tomorrow, August 15th to 19th. Ruto flew from Uganda, where he had met his counterpart Yoweri Museveni early in the day. After the meeting, he flew to Eldoret, where officials said he will spend the better part of the week in Eldoret. Security has been tightened ahead of the start of the event. Top security officials, led by Deputy Inspector General of Kenya Police Douglas Kanja, has been holding a series of meetings to plan the situation on the ground. He said they have put in place mechanisms to deal with any situation and assured visitors that security has been tightened. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and opposition leader Raila Odinga are also expected to grace the event. And as Muda Moja One Kenya coalition leader Raila Odinga held talks with a visiting United States Senator Christopher Coons. The meeting between the two comes amid speculation it was part of ongoing efforts by the international community to mediate the opposition and the ruling party. There is no official communication regarding the reasons for the meeting, but Raila appeared buoyed by the encounter. Kun-Raila meeting took place a day before the team of leaders drawn from the ruling and opposition parties that was picked to spearhead dialogue between the two sides officially begin talks at the Bomas of Kenya later today. It's not the first time Kun's representing Delaware in the United U.S. Senate is involved in similar mission in Kenya. And head of public service Felix Koskei has ordered security agencies in Baringo County to intensify the war against alcoholism and drug abuse. Koskei, who is also the chief of staff in the office of the president, expressed fears that indulgence in illicit brew consumption and the drug abuse menace was taking a toll on youth, hence affecting education standards and socio-economic development of the region. Speaking in Baringo County, where he was the chief guest during the launch of Jitume Free Public Wi-Fi at Kabarnet Matatu Terminus and Kabarnet Market, he urged residents to avoid engaging in alcoholism and drug abuse as it derails every user from engaging in any meaningful development activity. Machakos County Chief Executive Member of Health, Dr. Daniel Yumbia, has rubbished claims of a shortage of drugs in local hospitals. Yumbia reassured Machakos residents that all the healthcare facilities were well equipped with ample supply of medicines and therefore patients were receiving quality medical attention. While speaking during a tour of Machakos Level 5 Hospital, he said it was the responsibility of his office to ensure the well-being of both the patients and medical personnel. He added that plans were underway to procure additional medications that may be required in coming months, assuring they are focused on maintaining the highest standards of healthcare in the county. While touring the hospital's pharmacy stores accompanied by county officials, Yumbia noted that the county spends 100 million shillings quarterly to supply drugs in health facilities across the county. And the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has been looking into allegations of fraud in the National Museums of Kenya. The investigation, now concluded, has unearthed a scandal that saw 105 ghost workers added to the payroll between 2016 and 2022. The ghost workers were paid a gross salary of between 88,000 and 95,000 shillings, and they were also able to access loan facilities from a specific bank. They later handed over the borrowed amount to Museum of Kenya officials, and for their troubles they were given between 100,000 shillings to 200,000 shillings as appreciation. These activities cost taxpayers a total of 491.4 million shillings. And a police officer and a civilian are in custody after being arrested trying to sell 79 kilograms of elephant tusks in Meru. The two were transporting the tusks valued at 12 million shillings in a saloon car when they were intercepted by a team of police and Kenya Wildlife Services personnel. Their officer was carrying 23 pieces of elephant tusks that had been hidden in an 80 granny bags, according to the police. Police said they also recovered a pair of handcuffs and one police baton. And Matatu owners are gearing up to establish their own drivers training school in a bid to reduce road accidents. The move, according to officials of Matatu Owners Association, is meant to complement government efforts to reduce road carnage and ensure safety for road users. At the same time, the group led by new Matatu Owners Association chairperson Albert Karagasha said the suspended retraining of public service vehicle drivers by the National Transport and Safety Authority could not work out because stakeholders were not involved. They pointed out that it is time the Matatu industry engaged in self-regulation by starting a training institution like other national organizations. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Traffic on
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. And hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
Thus, if a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in
Ben low, nin inte, nin there, you markati kadikta. You know this character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. Good. And he must blame it on Adam, not me. Because Adam messed up and he was told, "No, you fellow, you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat."
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Okay, a few minutes after 8 o'clock, or rather 9 o'clock, and we're looking at traffic building up still and actually settling down in some parts. Now is when we see movement on James Gishuru going out towards Waiyaki Way, and we're seeing a little bit of it also heavy on the Thika Superhighway just past Survey, out then towards the Pangani Underpass. Not much of it is going towards Wangari Maathai, but folks are going to find that outlet and use it in just a short while. We're also seeing traffic still coming in from United Nations Avenue on Limuru Road, heading out from the Village Market, out then into the CBD. It's manageable, not too painful, at least not for now. Also, we're looking at what was on North Airport Road coming in from Cabanas and then out towards the Outer Ring Junction and the Eastern Bypass. Apart from that, traffic on Monday has not been too bad. Let's keep an eye on things, half hour or so, and check up on it. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there and let's keep things moving.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
At 9 minutes after 9 o'clock, we're in the last hour of Kenya's biggest conversation for this Monday, the 14th of August. Where are you tuned in? Around the country and indeed around the world. Live streams are up on YouTube and Facebook. Karibu Sana. And as we get into it, let's have a power conversation. Not the power for your biceps, the power for the one you need every day. Because it's painful.
Yeah, any power electricity.
Any power.
The power ya Kenya Paraffin Lamps Company.
And it's just hard. But let me tell you something that you will need some power for. Power of the purse or power in your legs. On the 29th of October this year, Standard Chartered reminds us that the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon takes place, the 20th edition of the same. And you're asking yourself, has it been 20 years? Yes, it actually has been 20 years. Kenya's largest single-day athletics event is back, and it's bigger this year. Get ready for the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. So join folks at Uhuru Gardens on Sunday, 29th of October, and we'll celebrate 20 years of running. You can register today for 2,000 shillings only at www.nairobimarathon.com. Now, you ask, where does this all go? Making it possible for the Future Makers program, which helps young people, especially girls, and people living with disability to learn, earn, and grow. The Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon is coming up, and it's 20 years old. Keep it here to find out how you can, or rather how you are getting into registration and how it's panning out. And we've got to remind you that DSTV says while you're on holiday, enter into a fantastic world of entertainment. CT, last week we told people that we were watching cartoons. It's true. Say yes.
I cannot be held responsible for what you tell people.
Oh, but it's true, you watch cartoons.
I do watch, cartoons.
Programs for young people.
I watch them. In fact, I love cartoons.
It's very good.
Yes.
Now, parents, guardians, and children alike.
I also heard that you told people that I was watching Showmax.
Yeah, that's another day. But now this one is another program for like Alvin and the Chipmunks. You know those guys? They're three chipmunks. They go
exactly who they are.
Music. They do things going around the world. They sing. You see? So I was not
those monkeys that look like rats.
Chipmunks.
They're chipmunks. They're not monkeys.
The monkeys that look like rats. Wonderment. So they're famous and they go on a world tour. They sing. They're this size, but they sing some fantastic songs.
And they have chipmates. You know. There's a female version of the male chipmunks, so they're called chipmates.
That's a biology question.
They're cool.
Just like
very cool.
the female version of men are called women.
Yes, just like that.
Before this goes south, Channel 305 is on DSTV. There's a program today actually at 4 o'clock. You can watch Alvin and the Chipmunks, Chipmates, I don't know. Open your kids to this wonder-filled world on DSTV to get this and more world-class kids content from over 15 dedicated channels. Feel the adventure and fun exclusively with DSTV. Yani feel how CT feels. And how Luciella also feels. Dial *423#, download the My DSTV app, pay 2,999 shillings for family, and enjoy a wonderful world from DSTV. Okay, we're getting into a power conversation now proper. Engineer Isaac Dereba is not a stranger to the Situation Room. Are you, Isaac? Good morning.
No, I'm not. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Isaac is the Executive Director of Electricity Consumer Society of Kenya and an electricity billing analyst, because we have problems, Isaac. And we were told things. Promises were made. Hope was
raised.
In fact, it was even planted. We are yet to harvest the hope. And all we see is shillings and cents disappearing, as well as tokens. So we're having a power conversation this hour. Isaac, karibu sana. Thank you for joining us.
Sanandu.
To welcome you properly with power, CT has today's proverb.
And our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the country of Niger.
Niger.
Man, I call it Niger for the longest time.
Me too.
Niger.
You.
Niger is a river in Nigeria.
And
so Nigeria was named for the Niger River.
Exactly the same.
Yes.
At least for the last 1 month, I've been pronouncing it as Niger.
One is female, one is male. Thank you very much, Ednah. You decide which one it is.
You know, it's the way I've been saying Milo for my entire life.
It's Milo.
And then I met people who called it Milo.
It's actually Milo.
You mean Milo, that drink?
Well, it can't change from Milo.
It's Milo.
It is Milo.
It is, you know, we Kenyans, we know it's Milo. It's just the same way I will tell you it is juice.
You did not name it, so you cannot decide
we
how
grew
it
up
be
knowing it
We
was
can,
Milo.
because the Milo is that goddess or something.
Venus de Milo.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes, so it can be Milo as much as you like, but the drink is
Milo.
So juice.
No, sorry.
It is juice.
No, it can
so
never
Joyce can be Jose or something.
It can never be Jewish.
And it's biscuit. Those things of biscuits.
Before this
Let's just eat
conversation
them.
goes south,
That's what matters.
please give us
the proverb.
All right, now you can't mispronounce this proverb even if you like.
Try twice.
Yes. Only a medicine man gets rich by sleeping.
Oh. Well, at least I didn't know that. I would have changed my career.
Wow.
But only a medicine man gets rich by sleeping. But no, he's going to collect money after selling the drugs.
No. You see, medicine man.
Yeah.
But you see, it's good because for you, medicine man is somebody who is in the pharmaceutical business.
Yes.
Okay, but let's broaden the meaning.
GlaxoSmithKline.
Yes, exactly. Rainmakers, those are medicine men.
Oh.
Yes. These are remote control artists who can make you climb walls, though they're actually nowhere near you. Those ones who can tell you the future, which they only seem to understand. These are also medicine people. Yes. Okay. And people go to them, don't they?
They do, yeah. So they make money by sleeping.
Only they can make money by sleeping. I mean, they'll be asleep, money still coming their way. They're awake, money's coming their way. That was my view of it, but I want to know your view.
Well, the challenge is that I still hope, I'm very money-minded, so I want to know whether he's going to wake up during the pay time. But it's interesting to hear that that problem is a new one. I need to research on it.
Go with the flow.
Do you get it? If you don't get it,
me as a defender of Gen Z, Bill Gates also makes money while he's sleeping.
That's the point, I think.
Actually, let me tell you something, Isaac.
Yes.
You cannot be wrong in your interpretation because it is your interpretation.
Yeah, it's my opinion.
Yes,
exactly. How I want to perceive it.
You want to money it. It's okay.
To power it.
It's okay. It's okay. That's how it resonates with you. And the questions you're raising are pertinent.
Indeed, they are.
I said, go with the flow. You're in South Africa.
They wake up.
That's not your problem if they wake up or not. All right, we're having a path. Thank you for that. I guess your interpretation, maybe it will actually come full circle as we have this conversation this morning. So, this time last year, Isaac, if you bought power tokens, if you're on a prepaid meter and you bought tokens for 500 shillings, you were getting there about 24.5 units.
Yeah.
This time last year, August
last year.
Last year. This year, you're getting, depending on your regional location, right? Now, right about now, you're docked about 5 of those units. So you're getting about 20.6 units for 500 shillings.
Okay.
What happened? I think that's the first question. What happened? One. I have many more questions. What's going on? Maybe you're just as annoyed as many other Kenyans right now when we were told that power prices were supposed to be dropping and then they went. Okay. What's going on?
Well, first of all, I think the biggest challenge is Kenyans do not understand. Like now you've said that depending on region. It doesn't depend on region. You could actually get your neighbor who is paying, who's getting much more units than you're getting, simply because your consumption might be above 30 units per month. Others are beyond 100 units per month. And that is what defines how much you're going to pay. For example, and I think, I don't know whether this is going to be important to listeners, and I believe it will.
Hold. Sorry, I lied.
Yes.
This time, I just want to, for purposes of clarification, so that we can see just how serious it is, because I've pulled it up here.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And I took a screenshot of a power purchase from last year, same time, for 500 shillings. We're getting 25.4.
25.4.
Yesterday, as of 1849, 500 shillings bought 15.57.
That's correct.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's now the true picture. Okay. 10 units down in 12 months.
Good. Now, for the purpose of listeners and yourself and City and
Luciela.
Good. Do you have bundles on your phone?
Me?
Yes. And the rest?
Data bundles.
Data bundles.
Yes.
Search Steamer Tracker. No. Steamer Tracker. Or it will bring electricity costs in Kenya. And that is something that people do not understand.
Okay.
Keep talking. We can walk and talk. Go ahead.
Steamer Tracker. You'll be able to see that have you seen electricity costs in Kenya? Does it bring something like that?
Yeah.
Click on it. That's supposed to be public information, but not very many people understand that. Now, if you scroll down, you'll be able to see a graph and a table. Have you gotten that?
Yeah.
That table, you'll see either written domestic August 2023 or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, click on domestic. You will see all the tariffs that are there. Now, when you click on the domestic lifeline 30, that is the cheapest. Domestic lifeline 100, capped at 100, that will be just somewhere there, 20-something, 27 or thereabout. When you click on domestic alone, like now what I have done, you will see the cost is 32.53 at the bottom.
That's the cost of a unit of
That's the cost of a unit. So if you buy 1,000, divide by that. Those are the tokens you'll be able to get. That is some live website. So never struggle to wonder how much was I charged on this. Now, the challenge is, each person do not understand which tariff am I in until you divide. Now, the biggest problem I have with Kenya Power is not, I will be able to say why I don't have a big problem with Kenya Power, but right now I'll say, how is a person supposed to tell that am I at domestic 30 or domestic 100 or domestic ordinary? Now, once you tell us that, you then be telling us, I am going to change you because your average for the last 3 months has been beyond this. So you're going to jump from this class to this class. Now, how do they tell people like that? They are supposed to, when you buy your token, they are supposed to say your cumulative tokens for this month is 28, such that you decide whether you're going to switch off so that you don't jump the band of the more expensive one. You see, that is a decision you can make. So that is one area that Kenyans do not understand.
Just hold on for a second, if you don't mind. Are you telling me that there are classes of consumer or consumption with a power company? Meaning, when I consume a certain amount of power, I belong to one class.
Yes.
If I consume more, I belong to another class. Etc., etc.
And they will keep on calculating every 3 months, so you can be changed.
So how many classes are there?
For the domestic, there are only 3.
Okay, there are 3.
Yes.
So when I change classes, it also means the tariff I pay, what I pay also changes.
Yeah, it changes by
Why?
much.
It goes
It goes higher because you can see, for example.
No, but why?
Because they claim that it has been subsidized by the government. The actual cost of power that has not
subsidized.
Been yes, they say, because the cost of power is 32.53 for this month. Now, anybody paying less is because they are hustlers. So the government pays a little bit. For example, if I go to domestic below 100, you see there are people paying 21.94. So at 1,000, you are going to get 50-something units. So please, that is one clarification. And I think it is important for Kenyans to understand.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Let's just take a few steps back so that we can understand what we're doing here.
Yes. Thank you.
Why should you classify people for power that we are all using? After all, when you put on your light here, it's the same thing as you putting on your light. It is light. If you want to power your iron, whatever, it is the same thing. If you have a fridge, it is the same. Why should you classify people? Why can't we just all have power? You put the thing, you go. Why must it be classified?
Well, one, it's not like the business case where you say you buy more, you get it at a cheaper price because it's wholesale. It's the opposite in Kenya Power. The more you buy, the more you pay. Because they claim that you are an ordinary Kenyan who is able to, I mean, if you are using more than 100 units, it means you have a heater, you have several things, you are trying to live comfortable. So you can make it in life. Those people who can't are supposed to pay less. They are struggling. And so I'm not saying I am defending it. I'm saying according to the explanation that we got.
What sort of logic is that?
It's not logic.
Who decided?
By the way, this thing went through public participation, and that is
when?
It's the same thing they said. When you're asking, I was here when they were doing public participation, and we said that those are the various classes they were trying to distribute and saying we are going to now. We were saying the people who are supposed to be subsidized to this amount were supposed to be less than 100. They now subdivided that we are going to look at even another class which is not going to be beyond 30 units. So they subdivided further. So that is one thing, and I think I am happy because Kenyans got a lot of confusion. Because what you do, you as city, this month you want to get Ndu to go and riot at Kenya Power's place that you got less units. And then she realizes that you are claiming got 25 units at 1,000. She got 40. So she tells you that maybe your meter has a problem, and so me, I don't have a problem. The next month, after your average, most likely you're going to get the 40 units, for example, and then she is at war with Kenya Power. Now she's the one who has jumped to getting 25 units. So she tells you that now I have a problem like you had. Then you tell her, now me, I don't have a problem. It was sorted. So it is that confusion.
Let me ask the question differently.
Yes.
Who benefits from this categorization of power and how much you can buy? Depending on the power of your purse, who knows? Who benefits from that?
Now, if you ask Kenya Power, they will tell you it's the citizen who benefits. Who is paying less than the 32 shillings?
So we are all paying. So everybody who pays a little bit more, because that's essentially what's happening.
Yes.
If you receive less units, that means you're paying more.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So anybody who pays more essentially is benefiting this hustler, supposedly.
Yes. It's
now,
a subsidy.
What is the percentage of individuals who are paying less for power?
Yeah.
If you take the whole thing into consideration, what's the percentage of those who are paying less?
Good. Thank you. I think that is a very genuine question because it keeps on moving, number one. Because we have realized that you can be consuming more than 100 units. And so you are not supposed to benefit.
In one household?
Now, one...
It's possible.
Now, more than 100. And I think that is where all of us are, because you have an instant water heater, you have an iron box.
I don't consume even up to 50 units.
But you don't.
Alone. Yeah.
Then.
But living alone doesn't deter.
No, but it depends how much power she'll use. If she's living alone and maybe all she's powering is a fridge.
Yes.
I don't have the tokens meter. I have the postpaid, and it's problematic because I live alone and I pay a bill of 4,000 every month.
Which is high.
You are still in the same. The pricing is the same. This is not just for the token. The pricing is the same for postpaid or prepaid. It's no problem. It is the same. But now what you are asking is that in case you start, Ndu starts benefiting because of using less than 100, she will be happy. But most of the people are the ones who are beyond. But now you ask about the category. Assume like you have about, right now I think we are playing around 9 million meters or customers. We call them customers, even though you are like one customer, even if you're with a family, because they count meters. 9 million. And they say over 6 million are benefiting. Mm-hmm. But we have no way of confirming that because who knows? Because you only know yours. Like now where we are, most likely you are benefiting. You maybe perhaps are not benefiting.
She's not benefiting.
I'm not benefiting.
You are not even benefiting, but you are saying you. But you see, you are between 30 to 50. Okay. So you are on the second tariff. But one thing, let me make you understand. From the same table that I had referred you,
yes.
In 1974, we only had consumption from the table that you are seeing there, plus VAT. Consumption plus, in fact, we are calling it government tax. Mm-hmm. Right now, those were two components. Right now, the price of power have got 8 components. Mm-hmm. 8.
Yes.
There is consumption, and of course there is VAT. But they introduced 6 more items. And those items are the ones that I want us to establish that they are the ones that affect consumers. That they don't know. They say power is cheaper today. It is now becoming expensive. And I thought we had set a price in April. Why is it becoming more and more expensive? Now, let it be a class. FFI is the first area where I think stealing happens. And it's not stealing as per se. But FFI is fuel cost, forex, and inflation. Mm-hmm. That is the first thing that I want us to discuss. The second one is WER. And that is WARMA, EPRA, and REP, Rural Electrification Program. Mm-hmm. So those are the 2 components that maybe we need to dwell on, because we can't talk much about the base tariff, and then we can't talk much about the VAT.
Why?
Because I think those are just standard. 16% VAT will always be there unless the government decides something else. The base tariff to Kenya Power must always go there. And every time I come here, people think that I defend Kenya Power. But I want to say something. Every time we are changing the price that goes to Kenya Power, we do public participation, whether we like it or not. But at least we set it for a period, be it 3 years. And that is the one I keep on saying. It's supposed to be reviewed after every 3 years. It can be lowered, it can be increased. But now, people lose focus on, and let me say, the Kenya Power cost actually is justified when it is paid. For example, now, like we are paying 20.97 for the most expensive tariff. You can be able to see, let me just tell you, for domestic, we are paying 20.97. For the other class, for up to that is 12.22. And for the last class is 16.3. Those costs goes to Kenya Power because they use it to buy power from Kenyan and the rest. They use it for their operation and maintenance, for themselves, and then for KETRACO, and then rural electrification. Additional to what they get as 5% from our bill, they still get some more money from Kenya Power for operation and maintenance. Mm-hmm. So Kenya Power's money, if you want to ask anybody about Kenya Power's money, that is what the MD can defend. But now, if you come to all these other 6, which is the FFI and the WER, don't ask him anything about it because he will say that is pass-through cost. I'm normally told by EPRA, the ministry has decided that this is the amount that you need to pass through to the consumers, and then you give us back that money. Now, what is fuel cost charge? We have always talked about it. But now, the problem we have is that is one component that has been used to defraud Kenyans. For example, in August of 2022, when we had the previous government by Uhuru Kenyatta, the fuel cost was 4.63 for 8 months in a row, 4.63, regardless of the generation amount.
Yes.
During immediately after swearing in, that cost jumped.
Swearing in of whom?
Of the current president.
Okay.
Immediately after swearing in, that cost jumped by about 2 shillings to 7. Now, let me tell you the effect of 2 shillings. Kenya generates power of 1 billion units. You're saying you consume about 50 units. He consumes about 100. If you add to all Kenyans and industries and everybody, 1 billion units are generated on average. It will be 1.1, it will be 900, 1 billion. So when you change a cost from 4.63 to 6, that is 2 billion, 1 month. Now, please note, before we came to reduce the cost of, before we came to change the cost of power in April, that cost of fuel, you hear Uhuru Kenyatta had maintained it for 8 months at 4.63. In March of 2023, it had reached 8.2 shillings.
Okay.
How much is how many billions is that?
Wait, just wait. Let's take a break. So that
yes,
you will then now tell us when you're saying this changed from 4 point to 6 point and then to 8 point, what exactly that means so that we can understand. Now maybe we can also open our eyes very wide and say what, how. Okay, let's take a break. It's 28 minutes to 10 o'clock. We're having an energy power conversation today. Your high bill, where is it coming from? Where is it going? What's going on exactly? And as you have to pinch a little bit harder as the months go by, what exactly does this mean? Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Let's take a break, but let me remind you that Choma na Ngoma is happening on the 26th of August. In where? In Nakuru County. Radio Maisha has been the flag bearer of this fantastic event, established in 2018. And it's a premier music concert under the Radio Maisha brand. It brings together music and food lovers for a night of fun and entertainment. City Choma na
Ngoma.
Very good. The previous 3 editions have brought major African artists such as Pato Ranking, Yemi Alade, as well as major local artists such as Nyashinsky, Calligraph, Sanaipe Tande, and others. So this year's Choma na Ngoma is taking it out of Nairobi. The date for this edition will be on the 26th of August. It's going to happen at the Rift Valley Sports Club in Nakuru. All roads lead to Nakuru. Calligraph will be there. Otile Brown will be there. Nviri will be there. Ben Soul. See, do you know Ben Soul? He sang a song with Amlioto.
Ben Soul is this guy of this band called
Not you're thinking Sauti Soul.
Yes,
it's not that one.
It's not that one.
There's another one. Nadia Mukami will also be there. Saru and Father Moore. Father Moore is the name of an artist. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Father Moore. All right. Tickets are available at www.ticketsasa.com. 800 shillings. All roads lead to Nakuru on the 26th of August. You can win a pair of tickets by sending the word Choma to 24338. And while we wait for the 26th, tune in to DSTV, where holidays adventures are many, many, many in store. What are your favorite channels? 305, 87. Download the My DSTV app or dial *423# and get onto Family for 2,999 shillings. DSTV, a world of adventures at your fingertips.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The man who looks at a beautiful girl and doesn't talk to her will end up serving lunch at her wedding.
Aya, City, do you like that?
My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Ameua panya.
Small mammal, big mammal.
Mtu atamshinda.
What are they saying? How are we comparison? I mean, you kill a mouse.
What are they saying?
What they're saying is, my father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man? Name, surprise. Someone's name.
The name surprised you?
No, the name is surprise.
No, what am I saying? I'm from Nigeria, man. I met somebody called I Believe. So
See?
Your name is I Believe? Yes, my name is I Believe. But that's the short form. I said, excuse me? I said, yes. My name is I Believe. So what's the full name? I believe in the goodness of
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Oh, finally! It's my Standard Courier delivery.
At Standard Courier, we know that your time is valuable. That's why we guarantee swift and efficient deliveries to your doorstep every time. Give us a call on 0793 599 684 or schedule your next delivery by visiting our website www.standardmedia.co.ke/courier. Trust Standard Courier Service for all your courier needs. We deliver with pride.
3, 2, 1.
The holidays are here, and MultiChoice is giving your kids a fun-filled day, all day, every day on both GoTV and DSTV, offering the best of kids' entertainment for all ages. Tune into the Situation Room to find out more about what they have in store for you during this holiday season and why you should subscribe and download the GoTV and DSTV apps.
Chilled Spice. Business news with Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Aseto. Trigger Foods intends to expand the irrigated acreage at the Galana Kulalu Food Security Project by up to 20,000 acres. The expansion is expected to result in an annual maize production of 2 million bags. Initially, 10,000 acres will be developed, followed by a similar size after the construction of the Galana Dam. Trigger Foods co-founder and Group CEO Peter Njonjo said the expansion is informed by the area's productivity due to the irrigation infrastructure that has been set up. Kenya is set to host a high-level dialogue with the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development on August 16th. The conference will bring on board a government delegation that will be led by Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, as well as Treasury Cabinet Secretary Njuguna Ndung'u. UNCTAD Secretary General Rebecca Greenspan will also grace the function. The high-level dialogue will see participants exchange ideas on the technical implementation and sequencing of the Holistic Productive Capacities Development Program for Kenya. A team from the Ethiopian government will visit Kenya to learn about Kenya's transport and logistics sectors. The delegation, which will be led by Ethiopia's Minister of Transport and Logistics Alemu Sime, will tour Lamu Port, Lapsset Corridor, Mombasa Port, Busia One-Stop Border Post, Kisumu Port and Inland Container Depot, among other places. Ethiopia is among the countries under the Lapsset Corridor project that was commissioned in 2011, bringing on board South Sudan and Kenya. For Spice Business, I'm Dennis Aseto.
Spice FM Business. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
21 minutes to the top of the hour, going towards 10 o'clock, and we're having a power conversation this morning and being able to understand a little bit about what exactly goes into your power bill and why it has become so much more expensive over the last 12 months. And Engineer Isaac Ntereba is here with us in the studio trying to debunk some of these things. Now, before we went to the break, Isaac, we were trying to understand where billions were going. So please, for the purposes of those of us who are not quite getting it, please explain what you mean when you say it was warmer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Please explain what you were saying.
What I was saying is, and it will shock you. First of all, in everything I'm saying, please multiply by 1 billion, because we say that is a unit. Those are the units that we normally generate as a country, and we agree we lose about 23% in transmission. But Kenya Power only bills us around 19.9, but currently they have dropped to 18.5. But let me continue. I was saying that when the new government came in, the fuel cost was 4.63. So immediately after swearing in, that cost came to 6.79. Now, that is a difference of more than 2 shillings, right? So that is 2 billion. Then immediately after that, it came to 7.09. They increased a little bit. By March of 2023, that cost had gone to 8.3. So if you added the FFI, which is the fuel cost, forex, and inflation, the cost was coming to, just during Uhuru Kenyatta's time, it was 5.63. So when the government came in, it was 5.83, sorry. When the new government was sworn in, that cost of the three components was pushed to 8.83. So you can see they added 3 shillings. So that is 3 billion. Correct. You are very right.
Yeah.
Now, from there, they had gone to an extent that by March, the cost of those 3 components was 11.31. 11.31. Now, during the increment they were trying to suggest in April, they knew that we are going to complain. So they decided that for us to allow Kenya Power to increase their amount, let us reduce this cost from 11.31. They brought it to 5.71. And that is the time they brought the cost of fuel cost to they brought it to 3.9. Now, and of course, they brought the cost of Forex from 2.16. They dropped it to 0.96. Mind you, the dollar and the euro did not have, becoming 50% because that is the reduction we got, isn't it? So it is nothing related with dollar exchange rate or anything.
What is it related to?
It is a boardroom decision, just like fuel cost. And they say there is a formula. By the way, there is a formula for calculating that. But even the input, even if you ask the Energy Committee in Parliament, they don't know that formula. Nobody
just
confirms.
know there's a formula.
Nobody confirms whether that formula is being used. But let me continue and say.
And what's the formula based on?
It's based on the cost of fuel that is being sold to the plants. Then it is also based on the consumption for that plant. And it has a factor of, it has several factors, but only 3 that cannot vary by more than 50%.
Okay.
So that formula, if you use it, there is no way you can divert from 3.9 shillings to 8 shillings. There is no way.
Is it a formula that other people use elsewhere? Is it something that's...
It's a gazetted formula.
It may be gazetted as much as they
Is
like.
it a globalized, standardized formula?
Thank you.
It is not globalized because each IPP, each PPA or a government, there is a way they tax their energy.
Yeah. That we get. You see, the moment you bring in formula, you are telling us that there is an understood system by which you arrive at this taxation, isn't it?
Yes.
But the variables you keep talking about seems to be shifting. So that would lend credence and say, okay, if you have a formula, then even if they keep shifting, the formula brings about consistency. Okay, now, what is this formula exactly?
That formula is there, is gazetted number 1. The variables for the inputs to that formula are also gazetted every month. So it is the problem of the people who are supposed to confirm to check whether it is being followed. But it isn't followed because I have done that personally as the Consumer Watch. We have done that.
Wait,
you want to ask something?
It is the problem of the people, like we the people.
Yes, because
to check.
To check and keep the government on check. Even our parliamentarians, like for example, the Energy Committee led by Vincent Monsioka, we went and presented those formulas and so many slides that were adding up to about 60 slides. Media was there covering. They never mentioned that in the news. They never even came back to say, only a few MPs that told us, oh, that was a brilliant job. Is that how we are being stolen? So you can understand those are the people who we are expecting to assist us, but they are also worried. So we told them, but they didn't use that information beyond that. I would expect they would use it if they call me again and say, please give this in a write-up so that we can publish it. And that is why I'm saying they also knew and they went to ask, but when they asked, they were maybe told by the CS or anybody that please, that is a hot cake, but please don't touch there because that is the only place we can adjust from 1 billion to 5 billion and consumers will never know. So right now, they reduced that cost.
Time. Sorry.
Isaac. Yes.
No.
You just said that essentially this is the only place where we can get an extra few shillings and nobody's going to ask questions.
Yes.
Or essentially nobody is going to be bothered enough to do the work to go and find out whether this. So that's the place.
Only the river, and we are not going to cover him.
Are you sure of this?
I am sure of that.
But you know something?
I am sure of that.
If you think about it, everything about what Isaac is saying seems to have been constructed, I'm using the word deliberately, to ensure that it sounds so complicated that
nobody wants to touch
get exhausted.
Okay.
But even what I was driving at, you see, they brought it to 11 point something. Now they increase the cost of power. They brought the cost of those 3 components from a total of 11.31 to 5.71.
I mean, they brought it down.
They brought it down. If you look at the production using thermos, it did not change much. In fact, it's more or less the same. So you ask them, how did the formula give you these figures for you to reduce it by a half?
Voodoo.
You see, so now so nobody is asking. But then you also need to ask. Let me come closer home. The dollar, the forex changed from 0.84. Which month is that? Let me check. 0.84 in May. In June, it came to 2.06. You see, that is more than 2 times.
Yes.
Did you hear like the dollar came from 140 to 280 or something?
No, please.
No.
So then ask them, how is this coming around? And you see that is an extra 1 billion also
Isaac,
on forex.
Wait,
Yes.
just clarify this.
Yes.
So when the dollar rates change they change the way they change. But when they change in terms of calculating these things of electricity, you're saying
They change differently. They change differently.
So they don't change with the dollar rate the way it is changing.
That is how the formula dictates.
No, the market rate seems to have no influence on this configuration.
Yes.
here.
You know, this
example,
formula is now becoming problematic. You know, in school, where when you were learning about the mole concept, it had a formula.
Yes.
Hata pale kwa hesabu, when you were doing those mathematics of high school, they had a formula. They tell you the pi of this and this, the square root of, it's constant. But then the way this formula of ours is sounding, it's like it changes. Ni kama ni recipe. See formula.
It's a recipe. Just for example, now
you can adjust a recipe.
I bring you back home again. Now, in March of 2023, the forex charge was 2.16. Kenya shillings per kilowatt hour. Now it came to 0.96. Did the dollar change to 70 shillings?
No, it didn't. But the point is, it appears. I think you answered the question. You said that when I asked, you said boardroom decision.
It's a boardroom decision
because somehow the market rate, the market indicators of the exchange rate between the dollar and the shilling, doesn't feature here.
It doesn't.
Okay.
Even the production using diesel doesn't feature here.
Okay, Isaac.
Yes.
Who are the individuals or group of people who make this decision? Who sits in this boardroom? That a decision can be made that this month we shall apply a forex of 2.09, or next month we shall apply one of 0.9, or the month after that we shall do one of 0.84. Who sits in this room that decides this is how it's? Because what seems clear now is that every month there's some billions that are made just by adjusting some numbers. Where those billions go, we don't know. But we know that you've paid your bill, and that's why you can see the fluctuation in your bill. But very importantly, who is making this decision about how the formula will be applied month on month?
Okay, now we know there is the only person we can tag this issue to is EPRA. But we know EPRA, we pay EPRA as consumers. And I'm not sure whether they are paid by the power producers. We pay EPRA, let me start there, for them to protect us. But now you see, they are the same people who gazette these values. Because if you ask Kenya Power, they will say, we are not responsible for gazetting those values. We are not even responsible for following up where that money goes. And that's why I say, you always crucify Kenya Power wrongly, because Kenya Power have got their own money and they are going to pay the REP, the RELEC, they are going to pay Ketraco and their own operation maintenance and the purchase power. And that money, you have tied it for the next 3 years. Now, what I ask and what they keep on saying, after we agreed that, there is another 50% of the bill that we are not responsible for, and you cannot ask us where this money goes. So Kenya Power are not to be blamed on that fuel cost. The only sole people to blame is EPRA. And EPRA will say, this is what came, because I am sure that comes from the CS, that probably, I would say, I don't know which state, but I would say State House maybe has said, can we get another 3 billion from power?
Isaac,
and this is what to adjust.
Isaac?
Yes.
EPRA sits in a room every month, because we know. We know that for fuel prices, we know on the 14th, like today, we will be told, wake up tomorrow morning and we'll be told, okay, either your fuel prices have gone down, they've gone up, or we've maintained, right? We know that. So are you saying then, with power prices, when it comes to adjusting of forex, adjusting of Warma, all those many things, FFI, etc., etc.
Inflation.
Do they also sit in a room and discuss so that we know on the 21st of each month we know, and this is the formula that they're applying? Are you saying it is them who are sitting in a room making this decision as well?
It is them who comes there. It's a director general who signs that gazettement every month. By the way, you keep on missing that gazettement every month. They have to gazette the cost of fuel to Lodwar, to Kipevu, they will give you the cost of that fuel.
Yes.
And the worst thing that I keep on crying for the Kenyans, you remember that cost? The one in the formula that is known as C. It's CI, the cost of fuel.
Mm-hmm.
If it is 250 shillings, because it's normally very expensive, and remember there is heavy fuel oil, it's maybe 260 shillings. It is inclusive of VAT, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that when they come to the bills, they still tax VAT again on our bills? You see, that is another problem.
So that's double taxation.
That is double taxation. And in fact, there is a time they were taxing inflation and forex. As in, I assist you to go and be able to manage to get dollars. You still want VAT from the same. We made noise here in January of 2022, and they stopped taxing forex and VAT. Now, the only challenge they are taxing that now is that they are taxing fuel costs. And we know already, we have already been taxed during that formula, the CI is inclusive of VAT. But now, even if you tell the MPs, do they even know what components are in the bill? We have tried to do that, and they will not have a lot of our time. And even if they do have that little time, and remember, they are doing an inquiry that is really important. But I have always told them, as far as you are going there without data, what are you going to? You call a Kenya Power MD, then you start asking them, who are the owners of this IPP? Is Kenya Power supposed to be bothered with that, or their operation maintenance? And remember, there is one thing that I also told MPs that they are going around, and they are not going to. They call IPPs. We have 26 IPPs in this country.
Those are the independent power producers.
Independent power producers.
Okay.
But you see, the independent power producers we have a problem with are not Gakira and the Malindi Solar. Those are not the people we have a problem with. We have a problem with 6 independent power producers that are using diesel, because that is the formula that is killing us. Now, call them. Don't call everybody else, because you will come and ask them who is the owner of this. That is not important. Tell them, this is fuel cost that your IPPs are charging us. Call others, you tell them, you are gas power, yes. Your contribution to the grid is 2%. And we are paying you capacity charge for you being idle. And we know Rabai and Kipevu 3 are giving us more than 70% on the thermal contribution in this country. All these others should leave, or we find, because MPs are the lawmakers, isn't it?
Yes,
whatever they will say, they cannot say that we have hidden contracts and all that. They will just say, we have decided that these people are parasites in our billing. First of all, we get them out, because they are the people who make the manipulation of the fuel cost being done, because either they are paid and then they have to refund money to the cartels, or even when you are paying that fuel and their cost, you have to pay in foreign currency. And remember, 2% is normally taken by Kenya Power.
Yes.
And 2%. Then the other 96% is taken by IPPs. Now, as I was saying, there is no need of calling Or Power, who is an IPP, for geothermal, because you don't have a problem with that person. You don't have an issue with that cost. You don't need to keep on calling other people who are doing solar or whatever else. Call these people. And the 6 people, I'm calling them 6 because I realized when I was in the parliament that there is one who doesn't want to disappear. Savo Power or Kipevu 2 were decommissioned in September of 2021. Now, I had them together with us. They were trying to defend on how they are not going to demolish that plant. Now, and I was looking at them really, and they were saying it's going to be cheaper now. You know, we have already paid, because it is not really important how much they are selling a kilowatt to us. Maybe even 4 shillings. But remember, the fuel cost is where 45 shillings is going through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
So we need to decommission them completely.
Okay. Isaac, tomorrow,
yes,
engineer Dr. Joseph Siror will be here in the studio.
Oh, okay.
He is the managing director and CEO of Kenya Power.
Okay.
So, of course, we have some questions we'd like to ask him. What would a power bill look like today? Now, this is a question I'm asking you, Isaac. Yes. What would a power bill look like today if these individuals that you speak of, these organizations, are decommissioned, right?
Yes.
If their activity no longer exists,
yes,
what would a bill then look like? Because what you're saying is that they're taking the lion's share
yes,
of these payments, yes?
Yes.
For doing minimal minimal to no activity,
Yes.
or using an extremely expensive source
Yes.
to then generate.
Yes.
Right?
Mhm.
Now, if their existence were to be altered or removed,
Yes.
replaced with those who are actually using a more manageable power source,
Yes.
or then for whose payments you actually see and they're made transparent,
Yes.
what would that translate to then in the bills that we see on a monthly?
Currently, today,
Yeah.
Currently, today, I look at the lifeline below that. Those people, let me use your example because I think it is better when you are able to calculate for yourself. The money that goes to Kenya Power for your tariff is 20.97. The VAT that they want to charge on that is going to be around 4 shillings. So it's going to be 24 shillings. Now that you'll have gotten rid of fuel cost charge, Forex, because you are using Forex to pay those IPPs who are paid in dollars. And then inflation, such things. And then Warma, this WER, Walma, EPRA, and RP. That is not a lot of money because that is only 3% of the bill. But if you look at fuel cost and the Forex and inflation, that is 45% of your bill. So we need to kick out those people. So that we can remove from 32 shillings, we come to 24 shillings. That is how it's going to look like. But unfortunate bit is that when Engineer Sirol comes here tomorrow, my very good friend that we are supposed to have a meeting on the same. Now, the only challenge that you will face is if you ask him anything else other than consumption cost. He will not tell you anything else. He can't tell you about fuel cost charge. He can't tell you about Forex. He can't because that is a pass-through. He's told, collect this on our behalf and give us. He doesn't even touch. So if you are going to ask him anything, ask him about the consumption. And that is why I always say, it is not Kenya Power. Actually, Kenya Power has been painted to look like they are the bad people. But they are not, and we have been in a discussion with them. It is this, like now the way we gazetted the costs in April. Has Kenya Power changed their costs? No, they haven't. What is changing is the fuel cost charge, the inflation, and Forex. Now, I heard now Warma wants to change the cost from 0.02 shillings per kilowatt hour to 2 shillings per kilowatt hour.
All the people, Warma, EPRA, who... Okay, Kenya Power is not involved.
It's not involved.
Okay, so who is involved?
It's the ministry. It's the minister and the EPRA. You know, EPRA is a mouthpiece of the ministry. So when Davis Chirchir says, Mr. President requires this money or whatever other, I don't know how it goes around. But I know it's an instruction delivered to Daniel Kiptoo because he's the same one who's being taken to court because of passing, increasing the cost of VAT in the fuel when it had been blocked. You think it is him who sat here and said, no, we have to put that.
Actually, we don't know.
Yeah. So most likely someone tells him, this is what you need to do. And even if you wait now, he's not going to be taken anywhere because the forces that told him you have to adjust even before these people complain, they are the same forces who will tell the courts, please, you realize even we had a very good justice, Mugure Zande, who is handling our case because we went to court.
Yes.
She was handling our case. She has been taken to Malindi simply because she suspended the finance bill or something.
We don't even know if that's the case.
So the next one who will come, of course, expect.
I think it's necessary. We don't know if that's the reason why she was moved to
Malindi. Judges are transferred from time to time.
So you think it is a natural?
And they take an oath of office to serve anywhere at any time.
Okay, anything can be the case.
Yes.
But we do not know unequivocally that was the reason as to why that was done. Okay. All right? The power conversation is one. It's highly emotive. We know that we are paying out of our pockets on a daily basis and becoming more and more difficult. It's necessary to have these explanations on a regular, Isaac, and I'm very appreciative because you do that well for us. Couched, in fact, also very necessary to have. It would be good to have the conversation tomorrow with engineer from Kenya Power so that we can Siror from Kenya Power. So Lucia, we want to thank you also for being here on the show with us as a guest host. First time for everything, and it would be nice to have you again in the future. Isaac, again, thank you for joining us. We're very grateful, and conversations that can continue on a regular basis. Kenya's biggest conversation is over for today. Conversations continue tomorrow. It's 10 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is News. I'm Dennis Aseto. President William Ruto is in Eldoret